Wah! Kuma, I'm alive. I'm a bit late again. Typical Eureka, why am I late? 20 minutes late, I guess it's better than nothing. But still, I didn't even do the stream announcement yesterday, by the way. Oh damn, my voice. I think there is a dust that went into my throat for some reason. I think there is a dust that went into my throat. That's weird. Put the music. Some music, Kuma. I'm feeling great too. Actually, I'm feeling a bit better than yesterday, which is funny because already yesterday I was feeling good. I was actually feeling quite good, but I guess a bit tired. But now I'm feeling even better. I want to talk again, yap a bit, you know. Obviously, I want to finish the video I started yesterday regarding the history of animation, which was a really good video, by the way. It was really interesting, and I want to finish it. I don't know what I'm gonna do after it, because obviously we're probably gonna finish it before, not that deep into the stream, so either I will watch another video, that's something that I could do, or I could play a game. I will see what am I in the mood for, you know. I thought about playing a bit of food guesser. That could be funny, like the food guessing game. Like, I will see. Live, Kuma. Alright. Besides that, the question of the day: what is your favorite Assassin's Creed game, Kuma? That would be the question of the day, because, you know, AC Shadows released recently, and damn, the discourse around the game is crazy, whether you are in one side or the other side of the game, you know. Personally, I think Ubisoft fucking sucks. I think Ubisoft fucking sucks ass, Kuma. But that's what annoys me a bit regarding this situation, regarding AC Shadows. Now, a lot of people are summarizing the Ubisoft hate. They're summarizing it to Assassin's Creed Shadows. But in my case, I hated Ubisoft way before that, but way before that, you know, even before they started doing the AC Shadows things and how they're trying to lie about what they did with this historian, you know, like there was a crazy story regarding AC Shadows. But even before what they did with NFTs, even before when they started to go full template for their game, I used to hate Ubisoft way before that. I think that the very first time I realized Ubisoft was actually becoming a soulless shell of what it was, a soulless shell, empty shell, corporate greedy shell of what it was when they released Rayman Raving Rabbids. By the way, just let me see the release date of Raving Rabbids. When was it again? And also I wanted, just let me do that. Anime Zatsudan Part 2 plus that could be funny this way. Alright, so what I was going to check, alright, the release date of Rayman Raving Rabbids. Let me see that, Kuma. So just, I'm checking that I sent everything. Really, I wish, like, the day I will get a new build and just browsing on my browser would be quick. That would be the best, Kuma. That would be the best, that's for sure. Alright. Yes, I think it worked. So anyway, let me see, Kuma. Rayman Raving Rabbids. 2006. Damn, like when I thought about it before going live, I thought about 2007, but it's actually a 2006 games. That's crazy. So when this game released, Rayman Raving Rabbits, that's when I started to actually think Ubisoft sucked, you know. So it is way before AC Shadows. When you think about it, it's almost 20 years ago. It's crazy. It's almost 20 years ago. So I kind of hate now that when you say that you hate Ubisoft, now people are thinking about Shadows, AC Shadows, because it's the new game they released, and they think that it's mostly because of the culture war stuff, you know. It's mostly because of the woke stuff that they're doing, like, you know, all the culture war stuff that you have now regarding video games, that people are criticizing, that they're trying too much to make the game compatible, DEI, usually it's called DEI compatible, you know. But honestly, it was way before that I hated Ubisoft, you know, that way before that. If anything, now it's pretty much the consequences of everything they have done. Pretty much, Kuma. So where's my water? Where's my water, Kuma? And that's why just checking on my phone as usual, because I'm always double checking that the stream on YouTube works. Okay, it works. Nice, Kuma. Kuma, and I got my water. So to answer the question, by the way, that I asked today, what's my favorite Assassin's Creed game? Because I used to like Assassin's Creed at release. I thought that Assassin's Creed was actually a pretty cool concept, especially with the parkour and stuff. What I thought was really great regarding Assassin's Creed at release was the fact that it was a game about assassins was such a great concept. And even the design they chose for Altair at release, because the original character in Assassin's Creed 1 was Altair, I thought it was really great. And usually the first 3 Assassin's Creed, so 1, 2, and 3, I like the original trilogy, you know, and I like the character of Ezio too, but believe it or not, my favorite was always the first game, you know, with Altair. I just really loved Assassin's Creed when it released, and I never thought about it, about a series that was going to get a shit ton of games like that, you know. At best, I think that a trilogy, as it was originally supposed to be, because in its inception, Assassin's Creed was conceived to be a trilogy. At least when you look at the original writer of the games, that's pretty much what he said, because when he left Ubisoft and the Assassin's Creed game, after the 3rd game, because they wanted to continue releasing games, he said that originally he wanted to make a trilogy, you know, for the story. It was going to be a trilogy, and that makes sense to me. Having a game that released and then 2 sequels, that sounds fair, and then you can make 1 or 2 spin-offs. To me, that would have been perfect. I was very hyped for the first game. Too bad it sucked. Oh, you thought that Assassin's Creed 1 sucked? I see. I thought it was alright, but I do agree that when you replay this game, the very first game, it was really limited in some way. It was really a proof of concept game, the first game, you know. What I actually liked about the first game was really the parkour aspect, you know. It was really the atmosphere, because it was, you're playing as an assassin. I think the design was really cool, and the gameplay, part of the gameplay. But it's true that the first game, that's why usually in the early Assassin's Creed games, most people would tell you that the best one is the second one, with Ezio, usually. Because the second one is the first one, but the gameplay is a bit more fleshed out, in a way. It's just like I like the first one for what it was at the time when it released. It was Ubisoft trying a new to release a new IP, and I thought it was really cool. But nowadays, Assassin's Creed, I think it completely sucks. I think it sucks. It sucks ass. I think that 80 to 85% of the Assassin's Creed games are completely bad, you know. There are some of them in the middle. I know that some people talked about some of the games released in the middle of the series, like for example Unity or Black Flag. I haven't played those games because I pretty much stopped playing Assassin's Creed after the third game. But those games like Black Flag and Unity, from what I've seen, they have some qualities about them. Like for example, I think it was Unity where they really pushed the parkour concept to its deepest, I guess. Like the parkour was really fleshed out. Some people really like Black Flag, you know, for what it was. But even both of those games, they had pretty obvious flaws. I liked 2 and Brotherhood a lot, but lost interest after that. Yes, same for me. I actually own the first 3 Assassin's Creed game, the physical editions, I mean, because I'm pretty sure after that they released, they gave some of those games for free on the internet, and I probably claimed some of them on the Ubisoft launcher. That's pretty much sucks, by the way. Ubisoft Connect, which was Uplay before, God, it sucks. Their launcher completely sucks, by the way, that's for sure. But I own the physical edition of Assassin's Creed 1, 2, 3 and Brotherhood. And then I stopped playing the games because I thought to myself, they keep releasing new games and it wasn't interesting anymore. Because at first, when I was buying the sequel, I was expecting them to complete the storyline, you know. The Desmond storyline, pretty much, like, which was the original storyline, but they never did it. I mean, I haven't followed how it evolved, but it really felt like they wanted to keep milking and milking and milking and milking the games, pretty much. Water, Kuma. By the way, my brother visited again today. That was nice. Like he visited us 2 days in a row, which is, it's not usual during the week, but that's fun. I like to see my brother. That's fun, Kuma. But yes, regarding this, obviously, if I'm asking you this question about Assassin's Creed, it's obviously that's the topic of the moment, you know. With the release of Assassin's Creed Shadows, I don't know if you've seen some gameplay of the new game, but I think it really looks boring, you know. Without even talking about what they did regarding the presentation, regarding the decision they made for the story and the characters, like even without considering that, I think the game is really bland. By the way, hello, welcome to my stream, Kuma. Neon Desu, welcome. Hope you're doing fine. I'm doing great, Kuma. I'm doing great. Welcome to the stream. I mean, you're not even the first time chatters. I think you were here before. Interesting. Hope you're doing fine. I'm doing great. Doing great, Kuma. I wish that on my plugin, because I'm actually using, as I said before, a plugin named Axel Chat, which helps me to combine the messages from every platform. So for example, if some people watch my stream on YouTube and send messages, I can see them in the same place that in where I see the Twitch messages, you know. But it doesn't display, obviously, like for example, when they tell you, oh, it's a first time chatter, or it's a new viewer, or it's a, you don't see that. Usually I have to click on the chat, on the specific tab for the Twitch chat, which I have on OBS, by the way. I have a tab with the combined chat, I have a tab for the Twitch chat and I have a tab for the YouTube chat. And actually, it's still important for me to have those 2 tabs specifically for the Twitch and YouTube chat, because in case I have to moderate something, you know, for moderation purposes, obviously, Kuma. So what do I have this pop-up now? But well, anyway, I hope you're all doing great, guys, because I'm doing really great today. Even better than yesterday. Better. So let me show you, because I wanted to talk a bit about the Assassin's Creed situation today, before going into finishing the video we've started yesterday. So let me go here. And let me show you, I guess I can show you here. Let me see. Kuma. So here, it's on Twitter, because I should really pay attention to not click on my timeline, because I don't want for Twitter to show me loot stuff while I'm streaming. But let me show you. So where is the... Okay, it's here. Like this. Here. This tweet. Really interesting. So, if you don't know who that person is, Hideki Kamiya is a really famous game designer. He's notoriously known for having directed Resident Evil 2, the original game, Resident Evil 2 98. He made the first Devil May Cry, he made Bayonetta, he made a lot of games, pretty much, Hideki Kamiya. I really like him. It's pretty much a game designer that I respect a lot. Usually I really like this generation of game designer coming from Capcom. So for example, oh, look at my hair. Look at my hair. I think it's because I didn't I didn't disable my key, Kuma. Where's my hat now? My hat. Let me put my hat again. I wanted to get my hat. Kuma. But yes, I was saying that pretty much I love this generation of game designer coming from Capcom. So obviously the OG one that I really like is Shinji Mikami, and Hideki Kamiya is kind of like his disciple, you know, his protege when he was at Capcom. Pretty much, I love it. But Kamiya is known, pretty much known. By the way, I wonder I didn't fuck up with my with my model, Kuma, because sometimes I forget to disable my macros, you know, because you can do them. Let me see. Like this. I will leave it like this. I want my hat. My trusty hat, Kuma. So yes, I really like Kamiya, and I really like Shinji Mikami. But Kamiya is known to he likes to trigger people on Twitter. That's how I always understand it. Like, Kamiya has a persona on Twitter. He really likes to post, I don't even want to say controversial stuff or controversial tweets, but he likes to post tweets to provoke engagement. Then people get triggered, they answer him, and then he quotes tweets, all of those answers. He called those people insects, which I really love, by the way. I really love the insults he's using. Usually when Kamiya wants to insult you, he will call you an insect, a worthless insect. I love it, to the point that I pretty much took this insult myself. When usually I insult someone, I like to call them, "You're a worthless insect, Kuma. I want to step on you. Worthless insect." Mushi. I think mushi is the word in Japanese for insect. But anyway, he tweeted something today regarding Assassin's Creed Shadows, and as you can see, I clicked to translate it too. So let me read the tweet. Pretty much what he wrote is, "I felt bad that it was being criticized so much, but I'm glad that it seems to be doing well in both sales and reviews." So he's talking about Assassin's Creed Shadows that released recently. obviously. Assassin's Creed Shadows officially surpasses 2 million players. This one is really controversial, like I'm gonna talk about it. Steam's maximum concurrent users also surpass previous titles. In the UK, it has been reported that package version sales are the highest this year. So pretty much, he's praising AC Shadows, and he's praising Ubisoft. And you can't imagine people got triggered by that. I'm not gonna lie, I got triggered myself too. I got triggered, Kuma, because let me put it straight. I said it at the beginning of the stream. I always had this opinion since pretty much Rayman Raving Rabbids. So this game, let me show you the cover. This infamous game, Kuma. If you wanna pinpoint the start of my hate regarding Ubisoft, it's from this game, Rayman Raving Rabbids, Kuma, right here. This infamous game. I've been a Ubisoft hater since this game, Kuma. So pretty much since 2006, 2007. The game released in 2006. I thought it released in 2007. So it's crazy to think that the game released almost 20 years ago. But this is the game I'm talking about, you know. I've been a Ubisoft hater since this point in time. Even though they still released cool games in between. For example, I really liked Rayman Origins and Legends, even though my perception of Rayman Legends, and more specifically Rayman Origins, became more nuanced with the times. I still think Rayman Origins is a cool game, but Ubisoft kinda screwed Michel Ancel on Rayman Origins, because Rayman Origins was supposed to be way more ambitious than that. Way more ambitious. Ubisoft kinda screwed Rayman at that point in time. So now my perception of Rayman Origins and Legends changed a bit, you know. I still enjoy those games, I still think those games are pretty fun to play, but I think to myself, damn, what it could have been. Rabbids got in a Mario game before Rayman, exactly, they didn't respect Rayman at all. They didn't respect Rayman at all, Kuma, that is crazy. A bit disappointing, I guess. I could say that. Gamen. What I was checking. Oh, that's actually interesting. Okay. I was checking a message. But anyway. By the way, I apologize that I'm checking stuff left and right. I guess it's my ADHD kicking in, but I think I talked about it in the past. Like, Eureka does have a bit of ADHD. I don't know if my ADHD is as intense as, for example, one of my friend, Brice. Like, he's talked to me before that he got diagnosed with ADHD and is taking medication for it. In my case, honestly, I never got diagnosed for it, but it's mostly because I never went to the doctor for it. Maybe I should eventually. But anyway, I was talking about Ubisoft and Rayman Raving Rabbids. This is the game that really started my hate regarding Ubisoft. And when you look at the history, the complete history of Ubisoft, and I think it could be really interesting that I do some kind of stream or video really centered on the history of Ubisoft, because since I'm living in Europe, and more specifically in Wafelland, Belgium, which is a border country to Baguette Land or France, and you all know that Ubisoft is a French studio, I've read a ton of stuff regarding Ubisoft, because since most of the articles, documentaries, and stuff they made regarding Ubisoft were in French. And French is one of my native tongue, so I understand French perfectly, obviously, since it's my native tongue, as I said. So I've read and watched a ton of stuff regarding Ubisoft. I think I am really knowledgeable. I'm really knowledgeable regarding the history of Ubisoft, way more than the usual gamer, because usually when people look at Ubisoft or criticize Ubisoft, especially coming from outside of France and outside of the French-speaking country. So let's say, for example, the United States, or I don't know, any other countries in the world, they don't have the full context, obviously, because they're mostly reading the articles that are getting reported by gaming outlets, English gaming outlets that obviously are, for the most part, biased. So I think, for example, by the way, I think I will put it a little bit higher because I like the music like this. So that are a bit biased, like for example, Kotaku or Dexerto. Is the site called Dexerto or Dexerto? Like I never remember the name, but something like that. They're biased, But me, since I understand French perfectly, I've seen a lot of documentaries, news article regarding Ubisoft. So I've seen everything, when the devs were talking about Ubisoft, when the executives were talking about Ubisoft, I've seen everything. So I think I'm pretty well placed to be talking and give my opinion specifically regarding Ubisoft. The thing I can tell you, because obviously this stream isn't going to be about Ubisoft, because I said that later I'm going to finish the video I started yesterday. But Ubisoft, when you look at their history and who are the owners, like the owners are the Guillemot family, which is a pretty rich family from France, When you know who are the owners, and all the history of Ubisoft from the start, it was predictable. Ubisoft was cursed since the start. Even back in the Rayman 1 days, the first Rayman, when you really look specifically at the history of how the first Rayman game released, they were doomed. Like Ubisoft was turbo corporate since the start. For example, Rayman 1, if you ever played this game, Rayman 1 is a game that is notorious to be hard, but way too hard and unfair. The game didn't get play tested. It didn't, because Ubisoft, when Rayman 1 was being made, they pushed for the game to be released at the same time, to be released as a launch title for the PlayStation 1 in Europe. Because the PlayStation 1 release was getting close in Europe, and Ubisoft wanted for Rayman 1 to be a launch title. But the devs didn't playtest the game, Like, if the devs could decide when to release the game, they probably would have released it a few months later, or even just at least 1 month later. But Ubisoft, and specifically the president, Yves Guillemot, absolutely wanted to release Rayman 1 as a launch title for the PlayStation 1, because from a business standpoint, it was a better decision, But because of that, Rayman 1, I love Rayman 1, how it looks, the aesthetic, like it's a great game aesthetically wise, and one of the 2D platformers that has the most charm. But the game, in terms of gameplay and game design specifically, is way too unfair. It is way too unfair, and the difficulty curve, how it is balanced, is really badly done, you know. Really, what carries Rayman 1 is the aesthetics for me and the music, but the game has a lot of flaws, you know. The game has a lot of flaws. Recently, my brother got into the Rayman games, as I said in one of my previous streams, and he finished Rayman 2, he's close to finishing Rayman 3, and he was playing Rayman 1 too. And Rayman 1, oh my god, like, I'm surprised he's not filtered yet by Rayman 1. Sorry, Gamen. He's not filtered yet by Rayman 1, because he's getting frustrated with Rayman 1. He's getting frustrated, Kuma. The game is frustrating. It is. But yes, Ubisoft was doomed from the start. So, to go back to Hideki Kamiya tweets, he's defending Ubisoft. I think it sucks, you know. To me, Hideki Kamiya, I don't know if he thinks it's a way to go against the grain, because Kamiya really likes to go against the grain when he's tweeting stuff. Or maybe, I don't know if he really did it because he knows people at Ubisoft and he wants to get on their good sides, because, you know, obviously when you're working as a game designer, you make connections with people, you know, you're making connections with people. So I don't know, maybe he knows people at Ubisoft. I would be pretty surprised too. Like, if you ask me if I had to give my 2 cents, I'm pretty sure he doesn't know anyone at Ubisoft. To me, here, it is just an example of Kamiya-san trying to be to go against the grain, you know. I'm pretty sure he doesn't even care. He doesn't even care about Assassin's Creed Shadows. He only did that because he saw that on social media that people were getting all riled up about the release of Assassin's Creed Shadows. He saw that the current trend of the internet is shitting on Ubisoft and shitting on Assassin's Creed. So Kamiya-san, in a typical fashion, in order to trigger people, he said that Assassin's Creed is a return to form for the franchise. Ad. Hashtag ad. It is a sponsored... I was going to say a sponsored tweet, but... It is a sponsored Twitch post. But yeah, really that. Unless you're sponsored, like, maybe Kamiya-san received some money from Ubisoft, I don't know. But yes, it's... You wouldn't say that. By the way, hello Volios, hope you're doing good. I've been trash talking a bit about Ubisoft because it's really funny, because now every time I wake up, I guess that's the habit of most people, but every time I wake up, I check my tweets, you know. I go on Twitter, and the way that Twitter works, on your timelines, usually you will get recommended tweets that have been receiving a ton of engagement. And the first tweet I saw when I woke up this morning, I went onto Twitter and checked my Twitter timeline, was the Hideki Kamiya tweet. I'm sure he didn't dig anything on the game and he just thinks that Yasuke has been in other Japanese media, so why this one is an exception, something like that. Yes, I think that, but to be honest, I'm pretty sure, like, I'm 95% sure that Kamiya-san is doing it to trigger people. Like, look at this, I can show you. By the way, again, I shouldn't click on home. I shouldn't click here because you're gonna see stuff that you shouldn't see on my timeline, you know, like loot stuff, so I should avoid to do that. But when you look at the commentaries, like, let's see, for example, this guy, what did this guy say? Okay, here they're talking about Gundam, it's not that one, because I've seen he was calling out some tweets. Let me see. Okay, here, for example, oh no, why, you Hideki? I respected you. Those ones are pretty funny, by the way. Like people that are like, oh no, Hideki Kamiya, you were my hero. What have you done? I am completely destroyed, Kuma. I respected you. Take some balls and defend your land. Oh my god. Okay, this guy is really, he wants to fight. He wants to fight. He wants to go to war. Defend your land, dude. What the fuck? Can't you see the agenda behind this? It's clear as day. Don't be a traitor to your own beautiful culture. I mean, obviously he's reacting to the most, how could I say that? Aggressive tweets, you know? Because obviously this guy here, I guess is being a bit too much, enthusiastic. With the ... Yes, he likes to do that too. He likes to do that too. Let's see. It seems insects, like I told you, he likes to call people insects. And I love that about Kamiya, you know. I like to call people insects too, for this very reason. I think that insects is a pretty funny insult. It seems insects have even created poetry. What a remarkable evolution, you know. You know the way he's quoting the tweets and just calling them insects, you know. So I really believe that when Kamiya did this, he knew for sure he was going to get a lot of replies of people telling them, oh, you're a traitor, you're defending Ubisoft despite the fact they're completely soulless. And to me, the only reason Kamiya did that is because Kamiya-san, and he's shown it many times in the past, when he has some free times, he loves to go on Twitter, pick up people that are reacting to these tweets, and then calling them insects and blocking them, you know. It's one of his hobbies. It's his hobby, you know, pretty much. He's doing it for fun. So I'm pretty sure regarding specifically AC Shadows, he doesn't care. He doesn't really care. He said that because he wanted to trigger people. Oh, this one disappeared. Sorry, that post has been deleted. Oh my god. Did it have been deleted right now? Nani? It got deleted. Really? Yes, when I click on it, it disappears. Funny. Some insects are yelling. They're yelling. I guess I'm an insect too then, because I was like them. Kamiya-san, of all the rage-baiting posts you could have done, defending Ubisoft isn't the one you should have done, you know. But really, it's because I don't like Ubisoft. Like, I'm being completely honest with you guys. I felt betrayed by Ubisoft a long time ago, you know. As I said, the very first game where I started to think Ubisoft kinda sucked was Rayman Raving Rabbids, and all the history behind it, like how they decided to make a party game. I mean, the idea of making a party game for the Nintendo Wii isn't necessarily a bad idea, you know. Like, I'm not even criticizing the concept of Rayman Raving Rabbids. What I hate regarding this game is that by making Rayman Raving Rabbids, they decided to cancel Rayman 4. In an ideal world, they could have made the Raving Rabbids series as a spin-off, you know, a party game spin-off series, and still worked on Rayman 4, and released Rayman 4 back in 2008, 2009, 2010, you know, back in this era, in the Generation 7 era. But they didn't. When they did Rayman Raving Rabbids, they thought, okay, now the trend is party games. We, as the Guillemot family, we want to please our shareholders. And with the release of the Nintendo Wii, it seems that people are getting into party games. So since people are getting into party games, it means that they don't like platformers anymore. it means that Rayman 4 wouldn't work. So you know what are we going to do? We're going to keep releasing Rayman Raving Rabbids. We're going to make a sequel. We're going to make a third game. We're going to make mobile games, mobile spin-offs, and we're going to forget completely about Rayman. That's what happened. That's what happened. Until we got Rayman Origins, which was a pretty interesting game, but even Rayman Origins, it should have been way more ambitious than what it was. Rayman Origins, when you know when they teased the game at first and they talked about Rayman Origins, it was supposed to be way bigger than one we got at the end. It was supposed to be a 2D platformer with a complete storyline, you know, about the origins of Rayman, as the name suggests, you know, Rayman Origins. As the name suggests, Kuma, you know, this game was supposed to be way more ambitious. So that's why, even though I believe that Rayman Origins and Legends are pretty good game, to this day I still think they are pretty good games and really fun game to play, and that if you like 2D platformers, I would recommend them. But I'm always bittersweet regarding Rayman Origins and Legends, because it should have been way bigger than that. Like, if they let Michel Ancel did what he wanted to do with Origins, I really think that Rayman Origins, should have been as big as, let's say, Mario Galaxy in terms of scope. Remember how in Mario Galaxy they also tried to do some kind of storytelling with the book that they were using in Mario Galaxy, you know? I think that Rayman Origins, in its conception, should have been the 2D version of this, you know. It should have been, when I say that it should have been like Mario Galaxy, obviously I'm not talking about the type of games, because Mario Galaxy is a 3D game in space, and Rayman Origins is a 2D game about the origins of Rayman. But I'm really talking about the ambition of the project, you know. I think as a 2D game, originally it was supposed to be really a big game, you know, way bigger, with cutscenes, you know, with storytelling, a game that expands on the lore of Rayman. But when you play Rayman Origins, like, if you, I don't know if any of you played it, guys, the game is nice, but you realize really quickly that they completely dropped the storytelling aspect and the idea that this game is a prequel to Rayman 1, probably because Ubisoft wanted them to release the game as fast as possible. And that was completely dumb. I'm gonna tell you why. If you look at Rayman Origins release date, let me show you the release date right here. As you can see here on Wiki, the release date was 15 November 2011. There is a big game. There is a big game that released in 2011, specifically in November 2011. And this game is, I think it is, by the way, look at the release dates, if it's loading. Look at the release date of Skyrim. Here. November 11th, 2011. Skyrim, the new Elder Scrolls, released 1 week apart of Rayman Origins. And I remember it so well when they announced the release date of Rayman Origins, that was quicker than expected. A ton of people were saying, but that's a dumb decision. That is a dumb decision, you know. I remember it really well, because back then, since I was really expecting Rayman Origins, you know. By the way, I bought the game day one. I have the collector edition on PlayStation 3 of Rayman Origins because I was really expecting this game a whole lot, you know. I bought it day one. But when they announced that it was going to be releasing the same month as Skyrim, 1 week apart, I was like, what the fuck? Like, they're dumb. They're dumb. They're completely dumb, you know. I was still in middle school and I was smart enough and I had enough knowledge of how the game industry works to know that releasing a platformer like Rayman Origins the same month as the new Elder Scrolls was shooting the gun at its own foot. It was, oh my god, that was really dumb. And it really affected the sales. It really affected the sales. Its reference, people talked about it. Even people inside Ubisoft talked about it. They said that releasing Rayman Origins the same month as Skyrim was a bad decision. It was a bad decision because Rayman Origins, in terms of its reception, was really well received. Let me see if I can see the ratings. It was very well received altogether. Like, you look at the reviews, it was really well received. You know, 87 Metascore on Metacritic, and a pretty good, like, that's a more interesting here, because usually the Metascore, I don't give a shit about it that much because, you know, back then it wasn't as bad as now, but you know how the official quote-unquote reviews are, you know, like, some of them are really biased depending on how close they are with the studio or not. But the user score were really favorable, you know, 8.3 for a game like that is really good. Really, really good. And the game obviously had sales below expectations. It had sales below expectations because it released the same month. It's not even the same year, because they could have released it in 2011, but don't release it the same month as Skyrim. They could have waited. To me, it's so dumb. It is so dumb because they could have waited in 2012, you know. Just let Michel Ancel cook. Let him cook. Let him do his ambitious games with storytelling, with cutscenes, expanding on the lore of Rayman. Let him cook. Let him release the game in 2012, and then people are happy. People are praising the games. More people will buy the game because it would probably release at a time where the gaming releases are more, I would say, less crazy, you know, not big games like Skyrim and stuff. And I was saying Brotherhood because I think AC came out this month too, so I don't get why two games come. Oh, let me see. It's true that you said that. Let me see the release date of Brotherhood. I do think it's released in the same year or two. Let me see. Oh, Brotherhood is 2010. 2010, so it was 1 year before actually. But it released in 2011 on Windows on March, so maybe that wasn't this one. But when did Assassin's Creed 3 release actually? 2012. And what did Ubisoft? Can I see a list of Ubisoft games? Revelations then for 2011. What was Revelations again? I forgot about this game. Okay, it's not ordered by date. Oh, those are the cancelled games. It's really funny they put a category for the cancelled games. What is the list? What are those games? Brother in Arms Furious 4. I'm glad they put it, by the way. Look at this. In the cancelled games. They cancelled Rayman 4. This one wasn't really a cancel, by the way, you know. This one, Rayman 1 for the SNES. It wasn't really a cancel to my knowledge. It's just that they started developing Rayman 1 for the SNES, and then quickly they decided to go for the next hardware. So then they went to the Atari Jaguar and the PlayStation 1. So this one, I don't know if it can be considered as a cancel, because to me it would be similar as saying that Square Enix cancelled Final Fantasy XIII for the PlayStation 2 because they started the development of Final Fantasy XIII on the PlayStation 2. But I think it's a pretty common practice, you know, that you start developing a game for a specific console and then you switch. In Turkey with old Ezio, the third Ezio game. I see. Revelations was Ezio last game. Do not recommend. Okay, I think I didn't play this one. Revelations. I think I didn't play this one, Kuba. There was a Rayman 2 for Sega Saturn. I heard about that. Interesting. But it's better that it released on the Dreamcast, you know, because the Sega Saturn, I love the Sega Saturn, but it was really a hard console to develop for. I liked it, but the least good of the Ezio, yeah, I see, Kuma. I think I didn't play this one. I played Assassin's Creed 1, 2, 3, and Brotherhood. Those are all the Assassin's Creed game I played, I think. I think I did try Unity at some point, but I didn't beat it, you know. But those first 4 games, so Assassin's Creed 1, 2, 3, and Brotherhood, I played them and I own them, you know. I have the physical version of those games, because it was back at the time where I was still buying Assassin's Creed games, you know. Then I guess I got bored of it, you know, when they kept milking the series. Rayman 4, cancelled. Pain, Kuma. And look at all those Tom Clancy's games that they cancelled. That's crazy. Ghost Recon 2 for Windows, Ghost Recon for GameCube, for Wii. Like, what happened with Ghost Recon? Like, they cancelled a ton of them. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Patriots, is that a... Nani? Like, there are some of those games I don't even remember. VIP for Dreamcast, Wilds for PlayStation 5. Really, Michel Ancel got screwed by Ubisoft, you know. Michel Ancel got really screwed by Ubisoft. I always say that if Michel Ancel was named, I don't know, Takeshi Shibata or Michael Johnson, and was Japanese or American, I mean, working for a Japanese studio or an American studio, he would be considered as the close to a Miyamoto type, you know. He would have been considered way more by the gaming industry. But since he's named Michel Ancel and he's working for Ubisoft, and Ubisoft doesn't even respect his own Golden Boy, people don't care about Michel Ancel anymore. Hold up, but I mean, it's true. It's true. Because, like, recently I've been playing Croc, you know. I played Croc on stream, the first Croc game. And, you know, there's all those platformer games that people are saying, oh, you know, those games are bangers, you know. Like, people are talking about Croc, they're talking about Gex, and all of those side platformer games. But when you look at those games, they're nice, don't get me wrong, you know. They have charm about them, but they all are clunky to play. For example, Croc. I like Croc aesthetically wise, but the game is so annoying to play, you know. It's a game that has tank controls for a platformer game, which is a pretty dumb idea, and even the character, Croc, is pretty much a Yoshi ripoff, you know. Croc is just a Yoshi ripoff, you know. The design of Croc, there's nothing memorable about Croc when you think about it. So to me, it's really funny that there are some people that say, damn, the Croc games are bangers, you know. Like when you look at on American fans, they're going to tell you Croc games are bangers, the Gex games are bangers, you know. They're going to tell you that those games were awesome, incredible, but to me, they don't even hold any comparison to the Rayman games, you know. Like a game like Rayman 2 has way more identity, but also way more like it's deeper. Like Rayman 2 and Rayman 3 are deeper games, and usually people who play those games all agree with that those games are really, really great for their times, you know. But they're not recognized as much. Like I'm pretty sure there are probably a ton of gamers from America, for example, they're more aware of series like Croc or Gex or even Banjo, you know. Banjo's pretty cool though, so I like Banjo, but they're more aware of the series because they're either American series or Japanese series. They're more aware of them than Rayman, because Rayman is French, and because Ubisoft didn't care about marketing Rayman properly. That's sad, Kuma. I guess I could check here. I hope it's ordered by date. Oh, nice. So let me see. Let me see. Kuma, Kuma. Alright. So Rayman Origins released here. So it was Revelations. You were right. It released the same day. That's bad. That's not a good decision. That's true. That's true. You're right. Like, there was also the fact that they released an Assassin's Creed game the same day of Origins. And at this time, at this point of time, in 2011, people were still really hyped about Assassin's Creed, I believe, you know. They were still expecting a new Assassin's Creed games. So yes, that's not a good decision. What is that? Raving Rabbit alive and kicking. Like, look at this dumbass game. Look at this. Like, who cares about this game? This one. Raving Rabbits alive and kicking. I don't even remember about this game. What is this game? Oh, it's the game that used the Kinect. Of course, you know. Like, they tried to really milk those Raving Rabbits game. It's insane. And then you look at the score. Look at the Metacritic score. 58. It's horrendous. It is horrendous, you know. God, I hate Ubisoft. So Revelations, Just Dance. They were making a ton of those games too. But yes, pretty much for me, I believe they should have been releasing Origins in 2012. For sure, for sure. For example, they released Rayman 3 HD on March 2012. I think it could have been nice, for example, to release at the same time Origins, you know, just to release, to put Rayman again on the forefront. They could have waited, for example, March to release it. It would have been better, that's for sure. Oh no, it's a hating yap. It is, Kuma, it is. I mean, I got triggered. I got triggered, Kuma. By the way, welcome, Latnichama. Hope you're doing fine. I'm doing great today, a bit better than yesterday. I mean, yesterday I was doing fine already, but maybe a bit tired. But today I'm doing better. That's cool. Hating yap about Ubisoft. I don't like Ubisoft. I don't like it. I said it many times. That's an opinion that won't change. I think Ubisoft is the worst video game studio to this day. That's something that I always said to people too. I used to hate Ubisoft way before AC Shadows, you know, like I don't even care about AC Shadows when I think about it, you know. It's just that now AC Shadows is the big thing that released. But if I had to pinpoint when I started to be disappointed at Ubisoft, it was really at the release of the first Rayman Raving Rabbids. So this game, yes, it released in 2006 already, so almost 20 years ago, Kuma. That's insane. But it is really the game when I started losing faith in Ubisoft, you know. Because they cancelled Rayman 4 and it was over. It was over for Rayman. And also the idea of why they decided to release this game is, I don't know. I don't like Ubisoft. I don't, you know. And I think it won't change unless the only thing that can change is if tomorrow Ubisoft gets bought by something else, by someone else, and that someone else is better than what we have now. Because the real problem regarding Ubisoft is the owners, the Guillemot family. I always say that the owners of Ubisoft is a French family that is notoriously known to, they only want to please the investors. They don't care about you. They don't care about gamers. They don't care about the artistic aspect of game. They don't care about it. They don't. When they jumped into video games and established Ubisoft in the early 90s, I don't remember if it was in the 80s or the 90s. I think it could have been the late 80s. But when they established Ubisoft, they only did it because they saw an opportunity to make money and to increase the money of their family, you know, to get more money. Like rich people only want to get more money. That's always how it is. They don't care about making artistic games or making good games. They only want to please their investors. It always was like that. It's just that back then they got really lucky to have someone like Michel Ancel, the creator of Rayman and the first Beyond Good and Evil, because that guy, and I will always say it, is one of the most talented game designer ever. And that if Michel Ancel was part of a Japanese or American studio, he probably would have been more talked about, you know. I think that even to this day, Michel Ancel isn't really talked about as he should be, you know, because he's really one of the most talented game designer ever. Pretty much, Kuma. But I can show you the tweet. That was the tweet here of Hideki Kamiya. If I can find it again. I don't think he deletes his tweets, by the way. Kamiya-san isn't like that. He doesn't care. Which is what I like about him. Like, I still like Kamiya. Even when he triggers me, I still like Kamiya, Kuma. Yes, I can't find it. Maybe I skipped it. Was it here? Why can't I go up? Oh, it was loading. Okay, this one. That was the one, Kuma. Let me translate it. This one. It was Kamiya talking about, like, he shared a Japanese article about AC Shadows, and that is what he said. I felt bad that it was being criticized so much, but I am glad that it seems to be doing well, both in sales and reviews. Assassin's Creed Shadows officially surpasses 2 million players. Steam's maximum concurrent users also surpass previous titles. In the UK, it has been reported that package version sales are the highest this year. And pretty much he's defending Ubisoft in a way. Like he's saying, people, see, Ubisoft is doing well. I don't understand why you're criticizing AC Shadows on Ubisoft. But really, knowing Kamiya, he did it because he wanted to trigger people. You know, as you can see, he got a lot of comment on his tweets, you know. But yes, I was kind of a bit triggered that of all the studios he decided to defend, he picked Ubisoft. Because I was going to talk about that, the 2 million players thing. To this day, we still don't know where does this number come from. When Ubisoft says 2 million players, we don't even know what it means. We don't. To me, it is lingo speak. It is corporate speak. It's kind of like how when Square Enix was talking about Final Fantasy VII Part 2, and they were talking about the sales, but they were talking about it in ambiguous way, you know. They weren't being clear about it. Here, 2 million players, it can mean anything. 2 million players doesn't necessarily mean 2 million sales, because Assassin's Creed Shadows, for example, can be played if you're subscribed to Ubisoft Connect membership, you know. If you're one of those weird people that are paying Ubisoft, their Ubisoft membership, you can play Assassin's Creed Shadows for free, quote unquote. So they could factor all of those players that got the Ubisoft membership and that are playing this game for free. It doesn't mean, as I said, sales, because when you look at this, for example, Steam charts, Assassin's Creed Shadows. Here. When you look at the number, it peaked at 64k. Pretty much. The game peaked at 64k, which is decent for a game. Don't get me wrong, it is decent for a game, but, and that's when the important part is coming, for a AAA game like Assassin's Creed Shadows, that had a budget, a really huge budget, because it's not a random game, you know? Like 64k is good, but it's not a random game. It's a new Assassin's Creed game. There is that other game, usually like people are comparing it with the new Dragon Age, Veilguard, this one. Veilguard peaked at 89k. So Veilguard did more numbers on Steam than the new Assassin's Creed game, than AC Shadows, but if you followed all the news regarding the new Dragon Age, it was a complete failure. The game was a failure. They didn't really get their money, like their return on investment. The game really underperformed. They were expecting way more for the new Dragon Age. So they did 89k, but it was a failure for the company. It was a complete failure, and they said it. I think that they actually cancelled the DLC projects for Veilguard because the game failed. You know, the game failed. Look at the players now. There's only 1k, close to 2k players, you know. That's nothing. That's nothing. So when you compare it with Assassin's Creed Shadows, that at release only peaked at 64k, so it's way less than Dragon Age Veilguard, I think they're not doing well. Probably the last game I played from Ubisoft was Just Dance. It's true, they're making, and still to this day, they're still making a ton of Just Dance game. I think that Just Dance was cool, the first games, you know, like, I actually liked Just Dance, you know, like, pretty fun games, especially if you play them with friends, you know. But yes, like, nowadays, Ubisoft, their games are boring, you know. Like, even without entering into the discourse, because obviously there is this discourse that modern Ubisoft game are complete woke shit, you know, that they're only doing woke stuff in their game, they're only DEI, they're only trying to please a specific part of people, you know what I mean, you know, that's the big talk regarding games these days. But even if you don't consider that, you know, because let's say, like, I don't really care about Yasuke, you know, playing as Yasuke. I think that it could be nice to play as Yasuke in an Assassin's Creed game, but when you look at the game, because I looked gameplay of the new Assassin's Creed game, I think it was really bland. The games are bland, you know, like, even if you don't take into account the fact that they lied, you know, because obviously there is this big controversy when they used a historian that was actually a fraud. Like, there is a historian that was a fraud that showed papers, like his works, regarding the history of Japan on Yasuke, and he talked about the fact that Yasuke was a samurai, despite the fact it wasn't. Like, he never was a samurai. That's pretty well referenced. And his works, his papers, were debunked, because even like when he wanted to publish those papers, for example, on Wikipedia, even Wikipedia didn't accept it, because those works, those papers weren't verified, you know, like there was no source, no nothing. It was complete fan fiction, you know. So they used a fake historian to try to push the fact that Assassin's Creed Shadows was kind of like historically accurate, and just this situation was really, really bad, you know. That's not something good to do. You shouldn't lie to people, I believe. Lying is bad, Kuba. But even if you don't care about that, let's say you don't care about all this culture war bullshit, you don't care about the fact that they lied about Yasuke, you don't care about that. Understandable. After all, you're a gamer. You want to play a game. You just want to play. You don't want to talk about politics. You don't want to talk about other stuff. You just want to play a game. Fair. When you play the game and you look at Assassin's Creed Shadows, it is really bland. Really, the last Assassin's Creed games are really, really bland games, especially when you compare them to the earlier games. And that's what I mean with Ubisoft. I actually hate that there is this situation regarding AC Shadows, you know, that people are discussing about the main characters, they're discussing about the history of Japan, because at the end of the day, the game sucks. I just think the game sucks, you know, like, even if you remove that, like, even if Ubisoft didn't lie about Yasuke and didn't do all of these things regarding disrespecting Japan, the game still is bland. It is a bland game, Kuma. It is boring. That's my opinion. Obviously, again, I am a bit biased because I hate Ubisoft, you know. As I said, to me, Ubisoft is the worst studio, Kuma. It is. But, well, regarding the Hideki Kamiya tweets, as I said, 2 million players is, we don't know where it's coming from. We don't. We just don't. It is 2 million players, it is not 2 million sales. And the theory that is currently going around regarding this number is that Ubisoft just factored all of the players who tried the game via their membership, you know. There is the membership thing, and also another theory is that apparently they're just counting every day player logging onto the game. That's another theory, because 2 million players, 2 million, that's a lot. 2 million is a lot. When, look at this, on Steam, it only went to 64k. Something doesn't add up, right? Something doesn't add up at all. Like, let's say even you, there's even the estimation here. there's even the estimation. Let's say you say it's 5 times the number of concurrent players. You assume that there's 5 times more owners. So something that's like 300Ks, you know, that there are 300Ks owners of the game on PC, on Steam. It's still far away from 2 millions. So there is 2 explanations. Either Ubisoft is lying, or they're manipulating the numbers. And by manipulating, I'm not saying that they're inventing, like I'm not saying that they're using a fake number, but that the number is ambiguous. That the number just means the number of players that played it, for example, via Ubisoft Connect membership, and all the players that logged on the game. Or, third theory, the game was a complete success on console. That could be it too, you know. Maybe tomorrow we will learn that Ubisoft Shadows did 6 million, 7 million sales on PS5. I would be surprised. That would be really surprising. Like, I think it won't happen. But if tomorrow they say, okay, we did 7 million sales on console, I guess that could be it. But nothing shows it. Like, there is no pattern that shows that Assassin's Creed Shadows was a huge success. Like, to me, a big success in comparison would be, for example, the new Monster Hunter, obviously. Wilds. Look at this number. The new Monster Hunter game peaked at 1.3 million players on Steam. 1.3 million players. That is insane. That is insane. So imagine we're using the way of calculating numbers that Ubisoft uses. Like, if we use the Ubisoft scales, I think Monster Hunter Wilds had 20 million players. Like, we could say Monster Hunter Wilds had 20 million, 25 million players all around the world if we're using the Ubisoft scales, you know. That is crazy. Something doesn't add up. But it is what it is. It is what it is, Kuma. Even more, like, look at this. Like, when you look at the estimation here, like, let's pick the lower estimation, 4.6 million. So it means that Assassin's Creed Shadows, like, if we take the 2 million players as 2 million sales, it means that Assassin's Creed Shadows did closer than half the sales as Monster Hunter on Steam, without having the hype and all the thing that goes with it, you know. Something is weird, something doesn't add up at all. That's why people are saying about this number, that there is something really fishy about the 2 million numbers. Like, let me see Ubisoft Twitter account, because maybe they tweeted something else regarding it. Because it's the Ubisoft account that tweeted this number first, Kuma. That's what happened. I was supposed to talk about anime, but it devolved into a Ubisoft hating stream. That's why I'm not a fan of YouTube. I was going to talk about YouTube. YouTube way of scheduling streams, you know, because usually on YouTube, when you schedule a stream, you put a title, you put the thumbnails, but I mean, sometimes, like, you know, especially me, like, I'm the type of streamer, of VTuber, that likes to go to talk about everything, you know. So where was it? Here, this one. 2 million players were thrilled. Actually, it was the Assassin's Creed account that posted it, obviously. We're thrilled to celebrate this incredible milestone. Assassin's Creed Shadows has now surpassed the launches of AC Origins and Odyssey. Thank you for joining the journey in feudal Japan. Like just this, like the last sentence is like, damn. They want to trigger people, Kuma. But yes, it's 2 million players. That's a nuance. They didn't say 2 million sales. They said 2 million players. That is not the same. That is not the same. If they were sure they sold 2 million copies of the game by that point, they would have said it, for sure. Like, they wouldn't have been ambiguous. But that's not what happened. That is not what happened, Kuma. So just... let me see their account. Maybe they shared something else. What is this? They shared something. So Assassin's Creed Shadows has been out for nearly 4 days now, and we are truly overwhelmed by the incredible support and enthusiasm we have received, with very positive players. Come on, guys. Come on, very positive. Like, already this is, oh my god, it's PR. Because, okay, it got very positive reviews, but come on, guys. It's really peak PR speak. Come on, guys. I mean, it's true, it's very positive, but it's at 81%. And 81%, it's still good, don't get me wrong, but it's really on the lower side of what is considered a good game on Steam. Usually, a game that really worked well on Steam and is considered as a quote-unquote banger would be in the 90%. 89, 88% at minimum. That's how I would say it. Like, for example, in comparison, I think Resident Evil 3... wasn't Resident Evil 3 79? I don't remember. Or maybe it got lower since then. Since they released the patch that kinda... Look at this! Oh my god, look at this! Look at this! Resident Evil 3... Like, that's so funny. Resident Evil 3 Remake. This game, when it released... I mean... If you know about the Resident Evil Remakes games, you probably know the story about Resident Evil 3, but when Resident Evil 3 released, people were really disappointing, because the game wasn't as ambitious as Resident Evil 2 Remake was, and they cut a lot of content regarding the game. By the way, just let me put it a little bit higher, because I guess those tracks are a bit lower. But I was saying, pretty much, it was considered as not a failure, but people were disappointed. Resident Evil 3 is at now 82% review, 82%. And now if we look at Assassin's Creed Shadows, very positive too. It's at 81%. So it really shows you how the numbers can mean everything and nothing at the same time, because you would ask most people about Resident Evil 3, they will tell you that the game was mid at best. It is a mid game, Kuma. That's what they are going to tell you. And it's at 82. Now look at Assassin's Creed Shadows, that is at 81%. And people like Ubisoft is saying, oh, it's very positive, so people loved the game, Kuma. And that's what I mean. It's always about playing with numbers, You can't tell everything with numbers. That's the thing. So let's keep rating. With very positive player reviews on Steam, a 4.79 rating on PlayStation, a 4.5 rating on Xbox, and your hundreds of messages, the reception has been nothing but heartwarming for the team. Okay, I want to just drop it down a little bit, like this. We couldn't be happier that this game, set in a location nearly every AC fan and dev has dreamed about. This is really, like, here they're trolling, you know. I hate PR speak, oh my god. I hate PR speak, Kuma. I could never work on a PR department. That for sure. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, Kuma. I'm way too honest with my thoughts. I couldn't work on a PR department. Even forcing myself, I couldn't. I just couldn't. Assassin's Creed Shadows is the work of a talented and passionate team who sought to create the ultimate Assassin's Creed experience. We are humbled by the positive reception and celebrations we've seen across the world. Thank you for your ongoing enthusiasm and support since our announcement last year. The road has been long and challenging at times, but we deeply appreciate your patience, energy and love. It really means the world to us, and your passion pushes and inspires us every day. Congratulations to Ubisoft Quebec and yada yada yada, they're just saying their thanks and stuff, but damn, I hate PR. Oh my god. I guess they didn't really put anything else, like that was the tweets that I talked about, the 2 million players. But yes, I think they're playing with the number, that's for sure, you know. When they said 2 million players, it's clearly not 2 million copies. I'm not saying though that I'm pretty sure that the game will hit the 2 million copies mark at some point. I think it will, but not that fast. Like right now, currently, I don't think they sold 2 million copies. That's for sure. That is for sure, Kuma. Okay. I think that's pretty much what I wanted to say regarding this Assassin's Creed. I mean, there was a bigger tangent that I was expecting, but I guess Kamiya-san triggered me, Kuma. I got triggered, you know. Would it be funny if I just write him, Kamiya-san, you traitor, you're a traitor, and then he would be quote tweeting me, call me an insect, and then block me. He would block me. Do you know that I never got blocked by Kamiya-san? I did interact with him in the past, I did, but it was always like normal replies, you know, like I never tried to trigger him, but I guess for some people, getting blocked by Kamiya-san is kind of like a badge of honor, Kuma. Alright. I guess we're gonna now continue the video I started yesterday. I was close to the end. Eureka getting the Ubisoft talk out of her system. Yes, I had to. I mean, just the thing regarding Ubisoft is yes, I hate them. I don't like it at all, but it's just that I'm getting triggered by it because I've seen this morning when looking on Twitter, like there are a ton of people tweeting about obviously AC Shadows, and they're defending Ubisoft, you know. They're defending Ubisoft, but the way they defend Ubisoft is not good. It's not a good thing to do, because Ubisoft, when you know their history, like that's my point at the end of the day that I want to say regarding Ubisoft, guys. At the end of the day, AC Shadows is just a game. It's just one of the many games that Ubisoft released. But when you looked at the history, the complete history of Ubisoft, they did shitty things way before AC Shadows. So when I see some big Twitter posters, you know the Twitter posters that like to tweet about news, reporting news from other studios and stuff, and that are saying, see, AC Shadows is actually a good game because it did 2 million players, and they're playing this game of getting like protecting Ubisoft in a way by telling them they did 2 million players, so they did good, and then they're trying to trigger people with this. I don't like it. I think Ubisoft sucks altogether. That's what I'm trying to say. Pretty much. I don't like them. I mean, now, if you like them, I don't care at the end of the day, You can have a bad taste, Kuma. You can have a pretty bad taste, but it doesn't mean that you can't be friends with Eureka. If anything, there are some stuff that I like, and that some of my friends would think, oh damn, that's pretty bad that she likes that. It's just how it is. Ubisoft. Exactly, Kuma. I don't like them. I don't. Like, the more the time passed, the more I realized that it is not Ubisoft that I liked. It is Michel Ancel that I liked. I liked Michel Ancel, like what he did for Rayman and what he did for Beyond Good and Evil. I liked the game designer. I liked Michel Ancel. I don't like Ubisoft. What's the guilty worst taste of Eureka? I have a pretty good one in mind. Let me show you. This one could be seen as I guess it depends. It depends, because I guess some other people love it, but like me, but let me see. Kuma. My guilty taste. Let me show you. Oh, by the way, I forgot. Isn't that a guilty worst taste? I forgot to show, like, usually I show every day, I try to show an artwork or a picture I liked, and I forgot to do it yesterday, but I have it now. Let me show you that first. Where's the picture, though? Where is it, Kuma? Can't find it. I can't find it, Kuma. Oh, here. This one. Oh, it's big. Why is it so big here? This one. You already got a tiny sneak peek, so I guess if some of you guys are great anime otaku, maybe you know what is, like, who those characters are, but look at this. Look at this, Kuma. Nagato, my beloved. I love Nagato. I love Haruhi too, by the way. I love both. I love both characters. Actually, I share a lot of my mindset, honestly, is really similar to Haruhi Suzumiya. Believe it or not, Like, I really feel Haruhi Suzumiya in a lot of ways. But I love Nagato too. I love her. I used to put a lot of Nagato avatars on Steam and Discord, but look at this. Here it's still safe-ish. It is still safe-ish, Kuma, but look at this. Look at this. This is official art, by the way. Look at this. Look at the legs. That's great. Look at the legs, Kuma. Look at this. That is insane. That is by the way, that is an official art of Haruhi Suzumiya, It's the type of art that you usually see in anime magazines, because maybe some of you are aware of that, but in Japan, they release a lot of anime magazines, depending on, there's a lot of anime magazines where they share the content regarding the anime that were broadcasted during the time it was released, and usually it's fan servicey stuff like that. And this pic is, I think it's insane. Look at the leg of Haruhi. That's, like, in terms of fan service, it is insane, because I'm following an account on Twitter that is pretty much a Haruhi Suzumiya bot. They keep posting, obviously, as the name suggests, pictures related to Haruhi Suzumiya. And this one, I never saw it before. So when I saw this one with Haruhi, showing our legs like that. And even look at Nagato. This one is insane. I love it. I immediately saved it. I love Haruhi, by the way. I should rewatch it at some point. I love this anime. But now, regarding my guilty taste, an example. Example number 1. This. Why did it... I gave a sneak peek, but I don't know why did it disappear. Like, OBS doesn't want me to show it to you guys. He doesn't want me to show you the picture. Here. This is my, I guess, guilty worst taste in a way, Kuma. Do you know about this anime? Some of you know about this anime, right? You do. Don't tell me you don't. You do, Kuma. School Days. I would consider School Days as one of my guilty worst taste. I mean, when you look at how people reacted to the anime, like, do you know that usually people consider School Days TV, so the TV adaptation of School Days, as one of the worst anime productions ever, you know? For example, when you look at anime websites like MyAnimeList or AniList, people are just saying School Days is the worst. I actually liked School Days anime. By the way, I have the game. I have the game, Kuma. I have the physical version. I wish I could show it easily. Like, I don't know if I have a picture on my computer, but I have the physical version of the School Days game, the visual novel. If I can show you the cover. This one. If it's loading. Yes, this one, School Days HQ. This is the version I have of the game, of School Days. I have it. I have the physical version of this game. By the way, the story is that I was looking to get School Days, like the physical version of the visual novel. I was looking to get it, and I couldn't find it. And I think I was looking through Reddit and stuff. Like, I made a post telling people that I was looking for School Days. And there was a guy from America that contacted me, and he showed me the picture, and he had the game. And then he showed me all of his collection of the stuff he was selling. And I actually bought him the School Days visual novel, and I got F, limited edition, the limited edition of F. And I got everything for less than $50, which was a deal, by the way. It was a big deal. So I got also this. Damn, why is it showing me I want the visual novel. I don't want that weird ass helmet. This is the one I have, you know. I have this one too, the limited edition of F, which is a great visual novel too, by the way. And that's pretty much what I got. I got School Days and this visual novel for less than $50. So I was looking for School Days, and I saw that the guy actually had the limited edition of F, and I was like, okay, I should get it. And I got both. And now I have them obviously in my collection, and I love it. I want to get more visual novel in the future. I love it. I love it so much, Kuma. But yes, School Days. That's one of my guilty pleasure, I guess. I think the story about School Days, by the way, is I think that maybe not a lot of people are aware of it, but the anime adaptation is actually an adaptation of a bad ending of School Days. The visual novel isn't what you would expect, you know, because if you've seen School Days and you cringed a School Days, you would maybe expect that the visual novel is more of the same stuff. but it isn't. School Days is a pretty classic visual novel, school life visual novel, but it has some bad endings. And that's what I think was really interesting regarding the anime adaptation of School Days, is it's one of the only visual novel anime, and to my knowledge, the only one. Because I tried to look at it before, but I couldn't find any other example. But I think it's the only example of an anime that decided to adapt a bad ending as their main adaptation. And I think it's crazy that they did that. I think it's really, really interesting that they did that, you know. But people don't care about it because they think the anime is really cringe and stuff. They only know about the nice boat meme and stuff. But yes, School Days. I don't know if I have another example, though. They chose a very gruesome bad ending. Exactly. To tell you the truth, I don't consider the anime as being misunderstood masterpiece or anything, you know. I will never tell you guys that School Days is a masterpiece, but I think the idea could have been done with a better execution. I think that the base idea was really interesting. And something that I said in the past, I was talking about Mari Okada before, because I was watching a ton of anime movies during the festival 1 or 2 weeks ago. Like, I was talking about the movies I was watching. One of the movies was Fureru from Mari Okada. Mari Okada is an anime director that is known for doing cringe movies, you know. Like, the movies she's doing are they're cringe in a way, but in the sense that she's making characters that I guess the usual person would think it's really cringe. But it's really interesting because I always described Mari Okada as an anime director that is really good at making cringe anime, if that makes sense. And usually what I say is that if there was a School Days remake by Mari Okada, it could be really good. I think it had the potential to be good, for sure. I think it's an essential in the harem genre. I mean, to me, it's a staple, you know. To me, people should watch it, for sure. For sure, Kuma. They should. Do I have another example, too? Or something that I... guilty pleasure. I mean, there's a crazier one, but I don't know if I should show it, by the way. Should I show it, Kuma? I don't know. Let me show you. Let me show you, Kuma. Why did you ask this question, by the way, Ladni? You shouldn't ask that, because if I start showing all of my cringe taste, people will stop thinking that I'm based, Kuma. They will stop. Let me see if I can find a good picture of it. Aisu. By the way, since I was still talking, I should have let the music playing. That's for sure. So. Here. This one. Get filtered now, guys. This one. I guess it could be considered by a lot of people as one of my guilty worst taste, I guess. Kodomo no Jikan. Don't look up this anime. Don't. Just don't. I'm telling you. Don't look up this anime. I am telling you right now. You shouldn't, Kuma. It's not a hentai, you know, obviously. It's not something I would say unsafe in a way, but you shouldn't look it up. You shouldn't. But that would be another example of one of my guilty taste. Really guilty. Really guilty, by the way, Kuma. I think Bolisu likes it too. By the way, we did talk about it in the past, about Kodomo no Jikan. But this one, you shouldn't talk about it, guys. You shouldn't. If you don't want to trigger people, don't do like me. Don't do it like me. You shouldn't talk about that. Kodomo no Jikan. If anything, I'm actually surprised people don't talk more about it, because it's really one of those anime that would trigger a lot of people, but I guess it's because it's pretty old, you know. It's from 2007, I think? 2007, probably? But yes, it's really one of those anime that, yes, you shouldn't talk about it to people. I mean, in my case, I don't care, you know. I don't care if people get filtered or triggered or start calling me names because I like stuff, you know. Like, there are some people out here that are like, why are you liking this anime? You're a criminal, Kuma. You shouldn't do that, you know. Like, people that are getting all riled up because there's some fictional stuff that I like, but yes, I like Kodomo no Jikan. I don't know if I have a third example though that I could show you. Let me see. Worst taste. But contrary to School Days, by the way, I think Kodomo no Jikan is good. I think. And School Days isn't as bad as people tell you. That's what I believe too. Let me see. Like, I'm trying to look. Yes, I don't know if I have any other example. I really like Kingdom Hearts, the Kingdom Hearts games, and I know some people, they don't like it at all. They don't like those games at all because they think they are really cringe, and because of Disney, you know, because they're Disney games. I mean, not only Disney games, but it's a crossover between Square Enix and Disney. And they don't like the Disney part, and they think the story is really cringe. But Kingdom Hearts has a really big fan base too. So I don't know if it would be, if it could be considered as an example of worst taste in a way. Yes, I don't know. Let me see. Oh, I guess Final Fantasy 13. I really like Final Fantasy 13, and I know this game is usually the game that people consider as the beginning of the downfall of Final Fantasy. But I really like 13, despite its flaws. But again, I wouldn't consider it as a bad taste, you know. So really, it's a type of stuff. I think that the only true answer that I have is School Days and maybe Kodomo no Jikan. This one you can see right now. Yes, I don't have any other idea. Trying to look at some of the anime I've watched, but yes, my taste is really good, guys. My taste is really good, for the most part. Yes, I can't find it. It annoys me. I should try to put a list, actually. I should write it, you know, of the stuff that I would consider too cringe to share with people. I guess another anime would be the anime with lollies playing basketball, Rokyubu. I think this anime is pretty cool too, but I know some people don't like this anime at all. Okay. Let's continue the video. I think I'm going to take a quick break right now because I have to go to the bathroom, but then we're going to actually finish the video I started yesterday. That was what I was supposed to do at first. So let me just... I see. That was this video. I'm going to take a quick break, guys. I'll be right back. And we're going to finish it. This one. And then... I don't know if I'm gonna do something else. I wanted to play a bit of Food Guesser, because that game is fun, but I'm gonna see. I'm gonna see what I'm gonna do. So I'll be right back. BRB. Kuma, I'm back. That was a short break. Short bathroom break. So now I'm going to finish the video. So to summarize what happened yesterday and what was the context of this video, it's pretty much a documentary about the anime industry back in the 60s and early 70s, when pretty much it was the time when it really started to take off in a way, especially with an anime like Astro Boy or Tetsuwan Atomy, released in 1963, which is for the most part considered as really the first anime that started the big anime boom, because obviously Japan was already making anime before Astro Boy, you know, like the video showed many examples, but for example the Toei Animation did a lot of movies and animes before 63, so before Astro Boy, and even Mushi Productions being the studio of Osamu Tezuka. It is the studio that Osamu Tezuka founded, and obviously Astro Boy is one of the many Osamu Tezuka work, but even before Astro Boy, Tezuka-san already worked on animes and other projects, so it was pretty much one of the misconception that some people has, but Astro Boy isn't the first anime ever, but it is to this day the first anime that really started the boom, the big boom of Japanese animation. So now let's continue and let's finish the video. We're getting to the part right in the pink. It's going to get a bit lewd, because as we said before, when Osamu Tezuka was making anime, at first he tried to make kinda serious anime, and then when it wasn't working out in the ratings, because it was back in the day when you were making an anime, you had to satisfy the TV networks. So when the ratings were going down, Tezuka-san usually was trying to go to the comedy roots, you know. Usually he pivoted to comedy, but now he's going to get into a specific genre that he didn't tried before, and you're gonna see what it's going to be right now. Let's go. Nice, nice. In the pink.
Television was ultimately limited in its ability to capitalize on the erotic. Adult films, however, became the backbone of Japanese cinema. While the
By the way, just let me put myself like this so you can at least read part of the subtitles. If some of you need the subtitles, guys.
The majority of movie studios were collapsing left and right. Independent creators.
All right, and that's what we were talking about. That pretty much since TV started to get really big in Japan, in the sense that many Japanese households had a TV by that point. I think at late 60s, so let's say 68, 69, most than 90% of Japanese households had a television. And because of that, movie theaters were starting to close because people weren't going to the cinema anymore. Because obviously, when you have a TV and can watch stuff from home without paying for tickets, people got lazy and they didn't want to go to the cinema anymore.
Crudely acted and edited films were quickly turning profits. Overflowing with violence, sex, and radical ideology, it was the dawn of the pink film, a new genre for a new generation. Originally called eroduction or erotic production,
I don't know why they got removed.
A pink film is essentially an independent feature-length film that features sex as a prominent aspect of the story. By
Erotic
design,
movies.
It is probably better understood as an exploitation film. Capitalizing on shock value and titillation, pink films immediately dominated the industry. Its progenitors were the new wave.
So it's important, there is a nuance here, you know. Like, those are movies where sex has a big part in the movies and even is a main theme of the movies, but those are not porno movies, you know. Those are not pornos. They're not the same. There is a nuance between both, because people could maybe understand that as being the first porno movies, but they weren't porno because porno movies, for the most part, I mean, I'm not an expert, obviously. I'm not an expert of porno movies, Kuma. Even more that usually I'm more into 2D than 3D stuff, you know? More into 2D, Kuma. But porno movies, usually it's just sex, and that's it, you know? Like, it's people fucking, and then people are consuming that as a way to get themselves off, pretty much, but that's not the main aspect of those pink movies. Hello, welcome to the stream, Shivan Banushali. I apologize, by the way, if I pronounced your nickname badly, because I'm not always good with Twitch names, but welcome. Hope you're doing well. Like, right now we're talking about anime Zatsudan, and the history of animation, which is pretty much a topic that I really got interested in because I love anime. Who are you, and what are you, and why are you, and how are you, and when are you? That's a lot of questions. That is a lot of questions, Kuma. I'm a scientist. I am the great scientist Eureka Wainwright. That's usually how I introduce myself to people. The great scientist. The great mad scientist. Aris would love this guy. Yes, I mean, he loves asking questions. I can already see that. So he would love him, obviously. Who's Aris? Maybe you should look it up. Maybe you should tell him hi. Usually he streams during, I don't know what's your time zone, but usually he streams during the evenings for Europe. Pretty
with
much.
Sun Tribe films of the 1950s, which were themselves inspired by films
Dragon.
such as Rebel Without a Cause.
What do you mean?
The first recognized pink film was 1962's Flesh Market. The original
Flesh
print
Market.
was destroyed by police after only a few days of release for not following obscenity laws, but a second version, made with leftover footage, immediately resumed screening. The plot of the film is not as important as what happened next. The controversial movie cost only 6 million yen to produce. But
That's
the
not a
amount of
lot.
media attention-
To put it into perspective, other movies at the time cost way more than this. 6 million yen for a movie like that probably worked well because it was the time where Dragon D's... Okay, you know why? You know why? You seem to be a kid, right? I think you're a kid. You're a kid. I don't like that you're using normies emoji. I think I talked about it in the past, guys, but I don't like normies emojis. So I'm sorry, guys. I don't like you. Bye, B. Bye, B. Let's continue.
And ticket sales were extraordinary. Independent filmmakers and major studios had found
I mean, he didn't seem to be a bad guy. It's just like... I don't like standard emojis, Kuma. I mean, I don't mind people using it. But you know, like those type of people that like to spam, like overly spam standard emojis, I can't stand them. I can't. I just can't, you know. If it's just once in a while, it's okay. Because honestly, like even when you look at people, like even some of my friends, they use standard emojis sometimes. But you know the type of annoying guy that just spams like a bunch of nonsensical emojis just to bring attention. I don't like it. I don't like it, Kuma.
the next big thing. In 1962, there were 4 pink films in total produced. By 1965, it had peaked at 213.
Damn,
And
look
by
at this.
1970
Look at this. That is insane. When they started making pink films, which again, you should remember that like pink films aren't pornos. It's not the same. It is not the same, Kuma. Not the same thing. But when they started making pink films, the first year they made 4 of them, and then look at the increase from 4 films to 200, more than 200. And again, those films were pretty cheap to produce, and they had their targets. Like a lot of people were watching them.
One of the 367 films made, 159 were pink films.
And then
Also
they drop it
nicknamed
a
the
little
3
bit, but it's still a lot. It's still a
million
lot.
films. Their low budgets obviously meant there was rarely any animation to be found. 1971's lustful Japanese night story is currently lost media, but contained an animated opening that would have pushed cost far beyond that of the average pink film. However, the anime industry too was undergoing an awakening. Again, Yoji Kuri, arguably one of the most prolific animators in anime history, along with his adult-themed vignettes on television, released a large number of risque shorts for exhibitions.
Damn.
Titled Samurai sees 2 swordsmen fight over a comically sized woman. Man, woman, and dog.
It's funny again how the avant-garde movement in Japanese anime was really big in the 60s. I think I talked about it before, but those type of animes that you can see now with this type of aesthetic that is really avant-garde and really simplistic in its presentation, but really like there's really something artsy about them. This type of shorts and anime nowadays you only see them in the indie scene, independent scene of Japanese anime. You don't see them anymore, for example, in the like that's not something you would see if you turn on your TV in Japan and checked a Japanese TV channel. But back then you could find those back then. And I guess it was really interesting.
Sees a jealous dog vie for the attention of its owner. Rather than just mindless obscenity, Yoji Kuri's work is generally either absurdist gags or deeper social commentary. Mushi Studio 2, which itself began by producing experimental shorts, were still producing them during the early days of the studio.
Even
Mermaid
those.
recontextualized the famous fairy tale to examine discrimination and fetishism. Memory, released the
Fetishism.
same year, emphasizes the comical meaningless of existence. And
Damn.
1966 saw the release of Pictures at an Exhibition, a 32-minute compilation of 10 shorts continuing Tezuka's philosophy of ironic futility. By
Ironic
1969,
futility.
the studio could no longer financially rely on adapting the work of Tezuka. Seen as a burden on the production process and increasingly sidelined, Tezuka defensively...
I was talking about it with one of my friends yesterday, but I really believe that that was a bit also part of the curse of Osamu Tezuka, but I'm pretty sure that if Osamu Tezuka was alive today, or wasn't, like, let's say Osamu Tezuka wasn't the pioneer that he was, so he wasn't one of the first guy to make anime ever, and let's say was younger than that and was part of the next wave or the wave after that of Japanese anime directors and animators, I think that we could have been getting great stuff from him, that really he was obviously really talented, but he started making anime so early. Obviously he was a pioneer, that it was really dependent on TV networks, TV channels and sponsors and stuff, to the point that even adapting his work was really tricky, because he couldn't, for example, just adapt the story. For example, if they made an adaptation of Ayako, which is a manga that I really love from Osamu Tezuka, like, they never adapted Ayako, but if they did an adaptation of Ayako, I think it would have been way different, because they would have put a lot of fillers, because the TV channels wanted content, they wanted fillers, and because of that, you have a good story, Ayako, that would have become really mid because of the fillers and stuff. So I really believe that if Osamu Tezuka was alive later during the anime industry, we would have gotten better stuff from him, for sure. Anime-wise, at
His
least.
studio was no longer producing art. Film distributor Nippon Herald witnessed the success of the pink film genre and approached Tezuka with an offer to produce a feature-length adult animation. The prospect of gaining funding while simultaneously claiming another industry first and returning to his edgier anime roots was an offer Tezuka couldn't refuse. Called 1001
Cleopatra.
Nights, the feature is a mashup of Aladdin.
Isn't
and
that
the
Cleopatra?
Invented
Or Cleopatra is the one he did after. But yes, that's pretty well known too. Osamu Tezuka at some point went into adult movies. And again, those movies aren't porno movies. They are true, like, animated movies where sex has a big part of it, obviously, but it was still made with the artistic aspect in mind.
Sinbad the Sailor and Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. Though all three tales had been adapted by Toei in recent years, aimed at an older audience, the content is understandably different. Domestically, the film had high box office returns and received generally positive attention. But
So it
behind
worked.
the scenes, the production was so disastrous that it actually lost the studio money. Tezuka's original script was 4 to 5 hours long. The film incorporates wildly different animation styles for each scene, and coupled with Tezuka continually reshooting already completed edits, created excessive delays and an overworked staff.
That's also the problem with talented anime directors. They can be really ambitious, and unfortunately, when you make art, you're not totally free, in the sense that, especially in this type of stuff, you need money, you need to be able to continually pay the animators. It requires a big budget, and obviously the longer it takes, the bigger the budget will get. So you end up, like, even if a movie end up being successful, if you spend a lot of money because it took a lot of time to be made, it's always bad for the studio, unfortunately. Like, there are many examples of anime studios that got pretty much that went out of business because of that, because they tried to be ambitious and they tried to offer something in anime that you wouldn't see before, but because it was really expensive to make, they went out of business. A pretty famous one was Mangaloop, Studio Mangaloop, which was an anime studio that was really known for making anime that was different than what you could expect from Japanese anime, but it didn't work that well in Japan, obviously. And because of that, they were losing too much money and they went out of business.
Had to hire 20 outsourcing companies just to ensure that the movie was able to be released.
That's a lot of
The
outsourcing
production
companies.
was so expensive that though it was the number 5 movie of the year, it was a financial flop. According to Tezuka, his main grievance with the film was that his presence was not visible enough, and it failed to express his individuality. Despite being in the red and exhausting his studio, the distributor and Tezuka
It looks
optimistically
good, by the
believed
way.
that a second quote-unquote artistic film would be a
This
profitable
one I've
gamble.
seen it. It looks really good for what it is, you know. That's a bit of a shame that it's not that it didn't work again, but it cost so much money to make that
These animations
obviously
are,
that's
of course, not part of the
bad
pink
for the
film genre.
studio.
By strict definition, a pink film is independently produced. Thus, each studio never produced a pink film. They instead had their own brand of the subgenre. Toei, under their Pinky Violence moniker, produced titles such as Girl Boss Gorilla and the Terrifying Girls High School.
There are a lot of
It was
shows
through
that
these
Toei
films
made that I
the
should
Sukiban
watch
style,
eventually.
or girl gang leader style, emerged. Sukiban was one of the earliest forms of girls co-op.
Sukeban is really iconic, by the way. Sukeban. That's one of the most iconic shows that Toei made. I think it was a Toei, right?
Uniform fashion and assumed individuality and rebellion. Nikatsu, another of Japan's founding film studios, went bankrupt in 1971, and after restructuring entirely, focused on producing what they dubbed romance, creating such works as Ichijo's Wet Lust and The World of Geisha. The restructuring apparently paid off, as Nikatsu released an average of 2 films every 2 weeks for over a decade.
That's a
Tezuka's
lot.
follow-up adult film was titled Cleopatra.
This
It
is
was
the
inspired
one.
by
This is the other one. You know, I watched both of them, but my favorite of the two is Cleopatra. This one, I think you should watch it. You know, that's one of the movie that I should recommend. Obviously, if you don't mind the erotic stuff, you know, because I know it's not for everyone for sure. You know, if you don't want to see erotic stuff in your movies or anime, obviously I wouldn't recommend it. But still, you should watch it. 70 is really old, obviously, but for how old this movie is, it is a pretty insane movie, by the way. I think like this video actually even showed other examples. Like for example, there was the Gulliver movie that released in the 60s that was really good for its time. There was the Hollis movie, Holasu, that was made by Isao Takahata, which is one of the founder of Studio Ghibli, and Hayao Miyazaki worked on that movie too back then. There are some movies from that ancient time, exactly, ancient anime. There are some movies that I would actually recommend because they're old, and obviously you would see it a bit on the pacing too, on some of the animation, but still, some of those movies were high budget and really were good for its time. So if someone would like to try a movie that is really different than what they could expect from an anime, it's actually an erotic movie again. So if you're not into erotic stuff, maybe you shouldn't watch it, but if you don't mind erotic stuff, you should. It's a great movie. The Anime Archaeologist. Yes. I guess that could be one of my nickname too. Like I used to call me the math scientist, Eureka Wainwright, but I guess one of my other nickname could be the Anime Archaeologist, Kuma, for sure.
Famous relationships of Egyptian and Roman leaders with a convoluted science fiction twist. The movie attempted some greater scenes of experimental animation, but at the cost of
I
interrupting
think
the
it's
plot
a
pacing.
really interesting
Domestically and
movie,
internationally,
Cleopatra.
the film was a flop. Advertised as
But
something
the film was a
hardcore in
flop,
the
yes.
US,
I
and
remember
releasing
about
a
that.
few months after Fritz the Cat, Cleopatra was criticized for being childish. After a string of failed TV shows and animated films, for many, this was the beginning of the end of Mushi Productions. Cleopatra
Which
was
is
the
a
last
shame
major
because
project
nowadays there are a lot of people that are watching, and by a lot I mean not a lot, but usually people that get invested into the medium of anime, they always end up watching Cleopatra, and it's a great movie. I love it. Sorry, Eureka, can you turn up the... Oh yeah, I should. Okay. Thank you for telling me that, Ladney, because sometimes I never know if it's too low or too high, but thank you. Thank you for telling me that. By the way, you shouldn't be afraid to tell Eureka if the audio is too low or too high, because I don't mind changing it, you know. Thank you.
works as Ichijo's Wet Lust and The World of Geisha. The restructuring apparently paid off, as Niketsu released
it
an
good
average
now,
of 2
by the
films
way?
every 2 weeks for over a
Because I
decade.
could still turn it up if it's still low, obviously.
Tezuka's follow-up adult film was titled
Thank you.
Cleopatra. It was inspired by the famous relationships of Egyptian and Roman leaders, with a convoluted science fiction twist. The movie attempted some greater scenes of experimental animation, but at the cost of interrupting the plot pacing. Domestically and internationally, the film was a flop. Advertised as something hardcore in the US, and releasing a few months after...
That was pretty dumb, by the way. That was pretty dumb, the way they advertised it in the US as something hardcore. It's not a hardcore movie. And again, the point of Pink Films wasn't necessarily to be hardcore pornography, because those are not the same as porno movies, you know. Those are not porno movies. But again, yes, Cleopatra is a movie that I would recommend, because it's a really interesting movie from an animation standpoint. There are erotic scenes, obviously, as you can see a sneak peek in here, but it's not just a porno movie, you know. You know how like obviously there's the hentai genre, where nowadays they're making a ton of hentai anime. The hentai anime, for the most part, aren't really interesting, you know, because it's always more of the same about like people fucking and being glued and stuff. I mean, that's not really the most interesting from anime standpoint, you know. But Cleopatra, that has obviously sex scenes in it, is a really interesting movie. I would recommend it for sure.
Fritz the Cat, Cleopatra was criticized for being childish. After a string of failed TV shows and animated films, for many, this was the beginning of the end of Mushi Productions. Cleopatra was the last major project that Tezuka was involved with before he left the company entirely.
That was a really ambitious
In a
movie.
1986 interview, Tezuka stated that he was unable to express himself through television animation, and that he was not interested in Mushi Production and the animations it produced. He mentioned that much of the work they produced couldn't be worse. Cleopatra was not the
That's
last
really
adult-
interesting what he said here. So it was in an interview from Osamu Tezuka, and he pretty much said that he couldn't express himself with anime television. And again, that's pretty much what I was saying before. Osamu Tezuka is really the pioneer, you know. He is the god of manga, like everyone knows him as being the god of manga, but he's also the pioneer in Japanese anime, like creating the big boom of Japanese anime. But the problem is that back in the 60s, when you wanted to make an anime, you really needed to please TV networks and please the sponsors. It was even more than today, because today, obviously, there are still like TV networks and sponsors, but back then, it was really hard to have a budget for anime. So the anime productions were really getting influenced by those TV networks and those sponsors. And again, as an example, Astro Boy, the Astro Boy anime from 1963 has 100 193 episodes. Close to 200 episodes. That is a lot. That is a huge numbers. Astro Boy was never supposed to be that long, you know. Like when you do so many episodes, it's because the TV networks want more content to put on their channels. And as they said previously in the video, when you watch Astro Boy, the first Astro Boy series, at some point you see some episodes that are reusing animation from the earlier episodes, to the point that they're picking like big parts, like in the later episodes of Astro Boys, they're picking big parts of the earlier episodes and they're mashing them to make new episodes. So it really shows you that it was never supposed to be that long. So I really believe that if Osamu Tezuka wasn't, for example, a pioneer of anime and appeared or was born later when the anime industry was already on its rails and where it was getting a bit easier to make anime, I think it would have been easier for him to express himself. Because for sure, Osamu Tezuka was a great anime director with great ideas, but he was one of the first, with the good and the bad that goes with it.
Animation by Mushi Productions, or any other anime studio of the era, however. Toei, hoping to capitalize on the perceived success of Mushi's first adult anime, produced Yukio-e 1001 Nights. Utilizing traditional Japanese woodblock aesthetics, it is one of the few Toei movies that have become lost media, though we can assume it exists
I heard
in
about
a
that
Toei
too.
vault somewhere. Nippon Herald also adapted the work of manga artist Yasuji Tanioka into a feature film titled Yasuji's
I've seen
Pornorama,
this one too.
subtitled
Pornorama. I've seen this one. I actually saw this one, Kuma. Pornorama.
Do It. The gag film ran in theaters for a little over a week before screenings were cancelled. Like many early adult anime,
Look
it
at how
would
she's
find
sitting.
future success in the then barely existent home video market. On the other side, television had become more conservative since the release of Village of the Immortals in 1963, but the Gekiga boom, with its more realistic designs, meant there were
Gekiga
plenty of
boom. We were
shows
talking about
attempting
it.
to push the boundaries. Most notably was Go Nagai's
Cutie Honey, though. Cutie Honey is a banger. I love Cutie Honey. I love Cutie Honey. I love it. It's an ecchi series made by a Go Nagai, who is also known for having made Mazinger Z or Devilman, amongst other series. But Cutie Honey is top tier. I love Cutie Honey. You should watch it. That's another one I would recommend if some of you people don't mind ecchi anime, but Cutie Honey is great. And most of the series, even the older one, are pretty nice to watch, you know. But usually I would recommend some of the more recent series if someone would want to get into Cutie Honey. But I love it. I love it.
Technically a magical girl series, the raunchy anime gained a small yet highly devoted fanbase who have been gifted a remake each following generation. To the outrage and protest of parents,
obviously it has a ton of fan service, you know. Like, you have to be into fan service to like Cutie Honey, but it's great. I love it.
groups, Nagai's manga, Shameless School, was also adapted into a live-action movie series that saw 4 films in 2 years and an extremely successful television program which achieved some of the highest ratings in TV Tokyo history.
Damn, I didn't know about that. Shameless High School. Halunchi. And I can't read the kanji. Damn, I should I should work on my Japanese again. Like, I'm trying to see if I know, because usually when I try to remember an anime, I remember the Japanese name more than the translated name.
The pink film genre eventually became so diluted that its beginnings as an independent
Halenchi, so shameful, yes.
movement became mostly lost. Amateurs and auteur filmmakers' use of sex and violence, was as much a way to rebelliously make money as it was a shocking expression of political ideology. These films challenged obscenity laws, critiqued all aspects of Japanese society, and condemned the presence of American military in Japan. Most controversially, it was effectively utilized as a socialist and communist propaganda tool. Pink, after all.
Back then in Japan, like the push for socialism and communism was really big. It was really big, and usually when you watch or read some of the works from that time, you can see it. I was talking about Ayako, which is probably my favorite Osamu Tezuka manga. In Ayako, it shows you a lot about the background of Japan at the time and how socialism and even communism was really getting big, like people were like always going outside and trying to complain about the power in place. There was a big like political movement at that time in Japan.
Role is just another shade of red.
Pink, after all, is just another shade of red. That's true.
In 1968, changes to a Tokyo University medical internship program led to a series of student strikes and the university calling in riot police to forcibly remove objecting students. In return, a general strike was called, and the students took control of the school. At the same time, Nihon University students seized their campus after discovering that the school had embezzled over 2 billion yen. Following suit, and for a myriad of reasons,
That's
every
crazy.
university in the nation was either swarming with protesters or completely occupied by militant student groups. As captured on film, barricaded within their universities, students became increasingly radicalized. Faculty hostages were verbally tortured, and huge melees of thousands of ideologically opposed students erupted behind fortified campus walls. Almost a full year later, the Prime Minister finally deemed it an official political problem and sent in 8,500 riot police to Tokyo University. The siege lasted 35 hours, and 650 police and 100 students were injured.
That's crazy when you think about it. That's crazy, but I heard about that, like what happened with universities in Japan and people just rioting because like they embezzled, how much did they say? Like, was it 8 billion yen? But they embezzled a ton of money. That is crazy. So I can't see why students would be pissed at the government for that. I can't see why. It makes sense.
But finally, Tokyo University was once again open. That same year, the live broadcast of Neil Armstrong's first steps on the moon had a 62%.
Do you believe in it or not? That's a big question. Do you believe on the Neil Armstrong stepping on the moon? I love asking this question, Kuma. I have some friends of mine, they think it never happened. They think it's a conspiracy that the human beings never went to the moon, that it was fake news, So usually that's why I ask people, do you believe it or not, of Neil Armstrong going to the moon?
In the ratings. The battle for Tokyo University achieved 97.4.
That's insane. 97.4 rating. That is fucking insane. So it means that of all the TVs in Japan, 97.4% of all those TVs were like watching this. That is insane.
Life magazine's special issue on Japan called students like these the Young in Rebellion, a group of music-loving, sleeping pill-addicted youths homeless during an economic miracle. As you are starting to see, this was a period of aggressive contradiction. Pacifists, terrorists, communists, capitalists, old and new. It was literally and figuratively the cultural.
Sorry, Gamen.
And as always, art was on the front.
Gamen. I don't know why it went out of full screen.
Lines. Many activists were simply trying to be heard, regardless of what was actually being said. A whole generation of pop artists emerged, creating some of the most iconic imagery of the decade. Though often overlooked, their contributions to the anime industry are important to highlight. Painter Tadanari Yoku produced 3 pieces.
I do wonder if I can... Oh, actually, okay, nice. Actually, I will do it that way. I didn't know you could move the subs like that. That's nice. So let me put it here, I guess.
Is Kiss, Tokuten Etsu Anthology Number 1, and Kachi Kachi Yama. Each employs the pop art and psychedelic aesthetic to highlight the absurd influence the United States had over modern Japan. Renzo Kinoshita won the New York International Film Festival in 1972 with his short titled Made in Japan, which also poked fun at the commodification of traditional culture. 1971's Throw Away Your Books and Riot on the Streets is probably most emblematic of the frustrations that underpinned a large majority of youth culture. The award-winning film explores the disillusion and depression induced by a constant state of economic and social contradiction. But it wasn't only rogue artists who rebelled against the medium.
So that's really what happened in Japan. Like, as I said, like there was the war, World War II, and then after the war, since Japan was amongst the loser, they were in a pretty bad state economically wise in the 50s. And then starting in the 60s, it started to get better and better, you know. It really started to get better in the 60s and going full throttle. And then going into the 70s, it started to get kind of bad again, you know, because people, as you could see here, they were complaining, especially the youth that was really not satisfied where how the country was going, and so they were voicing their displeasure pretty much. So it's really the history of Japan. It's like they're doing good, then they're doing bad, then they're doing good again, until they do bad again. But I guess that's pretty much the story of a lot of countries when you think about it. That's just how it is. It's cyclical, you know. Like there are times where everything is doing good, the economy is great, people are happy for the most part, and then there's always a time where, okay, we're starting to get depressed, sad, and stuff. Like, sounds similar. Yes, pretty much what is happening now in Western countries with the inflation and people getting more and more depressed. I mean, that's how it is. But maybe we could hope that there is a future when it gets a bit better, because again, it is cyclical, Kuma, you know. It may be bad now, but it doesn't mean it won't get better in the future. That's how I see it. I'm optimistic, believe it or not. I can be a bit depressive at times, you know. I have days where Eureka is feeling a bit more sad, but usually I try to stay optimistic when I can, Kuma.
Unionization attempts for animators led to massive repercussions for the industry. In 1971 at Toei, a slow-down protest in hopes of creating fairer wages led to over 90 staff fired or leaving. Tatsunoko.
Again, I'm pausing the video a lot because this is really interesting. That was 1971. 1971, the animators were already complaining about getting low wages. If you're a bit acquainted with the anime industry, it is commonly known that even today, working as an animator in Japan is really difficult because obviously you're working a whole lot, depending on the anime, and the wages are really low. So it really shows you that it never really changed, unfortunately. That is the big problem of Japanese anime nowadays. That is a big problem. Like, the problem that Japanese anime has is how they treat their animators, that unfortunately aren't decently paid even nowadays. And because of that, you have a lot of examples of anime productions where it's a train wreck. It's a complete train wreck because the scheduling are bad, the animators are completely tired because they're being used and they have to work on finishing an anime episode that is supposed to air the next day because the planning is completely horrendous and it doesn't help anyone. That is the big problem of Japanese anime. Like, their animators should be paid more, ideally, or at least they should have a better schedule. But it's hard that when nowadays, like, you know it pretty well, like, they're releasing so many animes every season. It's crazy. It's really crazy. An example of an anime studio that applies really good practices with their employees is Kyoto Animation. Kyoto Animation is really known for being really good with their employees. That's one of the few examples of a Japanese anime studios that is really based in that aspect, And that's also why I love KyoAni, They're treating their animators well. And because of that, they're making great anime. So maybe the other anime studios should realize that if their animators aren't fucking tired and underpaid, they will end up making better anime. It makes sense.
Lost around 70 to 80 workers in 1974. Aside from unequal salaries, offshore outsourcing was a major cause of the disputes. This is ironic, considering Japan too was still a notable outsourcer for American animation studios. Reiken Bass continued employing Mom Studio since 1960, and as their output expanded, hired almost every major studio in Japan to produce their animations. Toei worked on The Mouse and the Mayflower, and 1969's Smokey the Bear TV show. Topcraft, founded by an ex-Toei staff member, was established almost exclusively
Topcraft. Topcraft is the studio that made Nausicaa. Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. One of my favorite movie, if not my favorite movie, that was directed by Hayao Miyazaki. Like, it's actually the first Hayao Miyazaki movie or original movie, because I never remember if he did direct Cagliostro or Nausicaa first. It's one of those two movies, but it's really one of the first movie he ever directed. And at that time, the studio was Topcraft. It wasn't Ghibli yet. Like, he founded Studio Ghibli, after releasing Nausicaa, pretty much.
Outsourcer, contributing to shows such as Kid Power, The Osmonds, and The Jackson 5. They also worked
I forgot
on The
about
Adventures
that.
of Koroboko.
The Jackson 5 cartoons.
Mushi, too, were hired on at least 5 Rankin Bass productions between 1963 and 1967, including Mad Mad Monsters and multiple episodes of Festival of Family Classics. During the university protests, an American fighter plane accidentally crashed into Kyushu University's computer center. Incredibly, no one was injured, but it did little to help America's public image. And in that regard, the Japanese had plenty to protest about. Japan was still host to a large number of American military bases, and Okinawa remained under U.S. control. It was well known that Japan had profited greatly from the Korean War and the then-current Vietnam War, but these American war machines were launched from Japanese shores. So, complicit in the death of Vietnamese citizens, what responsibility did Japan carry? This was the issue that saw hundreds of protests throughout the country. Dressed in their iconic uniforms, student groups in 1967 marched on Haneda Airport and were met by 4,000 riot police.
Damn.
Though it was not the first nuclear-powered vessel to dock in Japan, protests against the docking of the USS Enterprise saw an estimated 40 to 65,000 people take part in demonstrations. The media focused on frontline student groups clashing with police.
There was a lot of civil unrest at the time, as you can see. That's for sure.
A large amount of public sympathy and television ratings. Not all student activists were violent. There were, of course, the hippies. Within Japan, there were an estimated 200 communes.
They were everywhere at that time, the hippies. It's really funny because that's such a thing of the past. The hippies, but they were everywhere.
The Bozoko. Believing themselves to be the real deal, they looked down on the urban hippies or futen. Though labeled as posers by the Buzoko, many Fuken could be
Posers.
found congregating in Shinjuku,
They
now
were
the capital
posers,
of
Kuma.
modern art and fashion. Contributor to the Shinjuku scene,
And yet
Keiichi
Shinjuku,
Tanaami,
like maybe some of you know that, but Shinjuku is a neighborhood in Tokyo that is fairly known to be where all the fashion people gather, you know, like Shinjuku. Like if you want to be on on the trendy stuff in Japan, you have to go to Shinjuku. That's for sure.
using hypersexualized imagery, created his own satirical attack on the United States with his shorts Commercial War, Goodbye Marilyn, and Goodbye Elvis and the United States.
Oh,
In 1970, inspired by a recent trip to New York City, he also produced the Dada-esque animation New York Trip. A decade previously, protests calling for the end of the US-Japan Security Treaty were the
Yampo
biggest the
protest,
nation had ever
yes.
seen. The 1960 revisions allowed either nation to end the treaty after 10 years. That time had now come, and it was expected that the country would be overrun with demonstrations. Admittedly, there were large protests. 1969's Anti-War Day had all businesses in Tokyo ordered to shut down, and 25,000 riot police were mobilized. But even then, it was missing the sense of emergency and unity of 1959. Student riots were a daily occurrence, and the economy was booming thanks to ties with America. Witnesses reported the security treaty protests felt more like going through the motions. The calls for a return of Okinawa were answered in 1972, and the security treaty was allowed to continue. Indeed, it seems the American presence was accepted as a necessary evil for the time being.
That's pretty much what it was at the time. Like America had a big influence on Japan, and you can even see it to this day because when you look at Japan, it's one of the country that is the most modernized or westernized in some way, because usually we say that Japan is a mix between modernity and old school, like traditional stuff, a mix between modernity and tradition, you know. But a big part on what made them modern is also the fact that they got influenced a lot by America and obviously Western culture. That's why you have such a particular mix in Japan.
In animation, a lot of anime became routinely demonized by concerned
Cutie
groups.
Honey.
But the end of the 1960s,
Cutie Honey, again, Cutie Honey is that's really good to put it that way, but it's the first anime that's pretty much filtered people, filtered tourists, you know. Like now that I think about it, like I never thought about it this way, but yes, we could consider Cutie Honey as the first anime to filter tourists, you know, anime tourist or otaku tourist, as I like to call them, because they thought that Cutie Honey was evil because it was fan service, ecchi fan service. So they were like, what is this anime? Like, what is this doing on my television? They shouldn't show that, you know. Like there are people that were obviously shocked by Cutie Honey. So we could consider this series as the first series that did filter anime tourist, an anime otaku tourist.
saw some of the most iconically wholesome shows ever made. 1969's Saze-san, the animated exploits of Japan's preeminent housewife.
This one is a
This
classic.
series has been a mainstay of Sunday night programming and is recognized as
They're still broadcasting new episode of Sazae-san in this day and age. I think it's one of the oldest, if not the oldest, long-running anime series, Sazae-san.
the longest-running animated series in the
I
world.
just said it.
The writing team, Fujiko Fujio, both together and alone, continued their success after Kyutaro, with series such as The Alien Visitors of Plumstar Dekan. But they would
Fujiko
become
Fujio is
forever
the
synonymous
creator
with their
of
robotic
Doraemon.
feline,
Doraemon, of course.
A coalescence of their previous ideas, Doraemon was surprisingly cancelled after its first year by Nippon TV.
Damn.
After finding other producers, the character would go on to earn billions of dollars and a half-century career. Obviously, broadcasters aren't great judges of quality, but they are experts in
Doraemon is really big, and even outside of Japan. I don't know how Doraemon was perceived in some of the countries you're living in, guys. For example, in Belgium, in Waffleland, I wouldn't say that Doraemon was big or known by people. Now that I think about it, I don't even know if it got broadcast in here. But for example, in Spain, because I know a lot about Spain too, because my mother is Spanish, kuma. In Spain, they love Doraemon. You know, they always broadcast Doraemon on TV. Every time I go to Spain, I look at the channels, and there is always a channel that is broadcasting Doraemon episodes. And what's even funny, I even found a Spanish channel, that for some reason were broadcasting Doraemon episodes in Japanese. So not even dubbed. But they love Doraemon in Spain. And I know that Doraemon, obviously, in Japan is really big. Even to this day.
Manipulating baser instincts. So it is unsurprising that the media and activists quickly established a dangerous symbiotic relationship. If a big protest gets big ratings, then it stands to reason. To become extremely famous, you need to become an extremist. As the new left emerged, radicals within the movement began to break out. One fanatic student targeted U.S. Secretary of the State William Rogers, stabbing him with a pencil. Fortunately for Rogers, the would-be assassin misidentified his victim and attempted to impale the wrong.
Impaled with a pencil? I mean, you had to go really, really strong on someone to impale them with a pencil, right? I mean, if it was a knife, makes sense, but a pencil? Damn, pencil are really scary weapons then.
Person. On the opposite spectrum, ultranationalist writer Yukio Mishima attempted to start a military coup in 1970.
Mishima,
After
like the
infiltrating a
Tekken
Japanese
characters.
defense base and taking a commander hostage, Mishima stood on the office balcony
Kazuya
and attempted
Mishima.
to rally the troops to his side. His call to arms was both heckled and ignored, and a disillusioned Mishima immediately committed seppuku, ending the short-lived revolution.
Damn.
By 1971, what sympathy the public had left for student groups was all but gone when a communist extremist faction attacked and rioted on the streets of Shibuya. For 6 hours, the group clashed with riot police. They threw firebombs, injuring a large number of civilians, damaging buildings, and even a train. Most demonstrations, despite their size and appearance, were relatively safe. The number of deaths and serious injuries were so low that, despite the sincerity, observers saw it as performative protesting. This is especially true when compared to other nations during the same time. Thus, as mainstream protesting began to lose purpose, predictably, student groups' continual factionalization led to infighting and their inevitable implosion. As with the students who took over their university for an entire year, almost everyone quietly returned to their normal lives. However, there were a few who refused to go back. Instead, they had plans to become extremely famous.
Stop motion. That was also a big thing at the time, you know, in the history of anime. Stop motion anime. Also, that's a discussion that I had with a friend of mine too recently. But we don't see that many stop motion anime nowadays, you know. And that's a bit of a shame because I think stop motion is really cool. A recent anime that used stop motion is like the anime with the hamsters. How is it called again? Because I love that anime. Let me see. Not Hamtaro, obviously, because the first hamster anime you would think about is Hamtaro, and I love Hamtaro, but that's not the one I'm thinking about. This one, Pui Pui Molcar, this one. Stop motion anime, I really like this one. And obviously there is also the car hamster thing. Exactly, that's the one I was talking about. This one, Pui Pui Molcar. I watched both season. I haven't watched, I think they made a movie recently, right? There is an anime film, a movie. I haven't watched it. That's the only thing I haven't watched. But I watched both seasons, and I think it's really, really cool. And there is also Pokemon Concierge that they made on Netflix that I really liked. But I think stop motion anime is really cool. Stop motion in general is a really cool technique to make animation. As I've said, I wish they would do more of that because they're cool. I like them. I really like them. Stop motion. Because it was really here at the time, as you've seen, there is a lot of anime directors that were making a lot of avant-garde stuff, that when you look at how it looked, it was really different in terms of aesthetic and how it looked compared to the other anime at the time. And you could even argue the Gekiga style, the Gekiga style that you could see in manga and then that you could see in anime, like for example, Ataku Number 1 or Aim for the Ace, all this generation of anime. I think even Ashita no Jo, you could consider it as a Gekiga anime. But this style of anime, like the Gekiga anime style, you don't really see it a lot nowadays either. And that's actually one of my complaints of modern anime. I think that modern anime, for the most part, is really samey looking for a lot of them, because obviously now anime is really popular and they're making a lot of anime for streaming platforms. They want those anime to get popular, so obviously they will look at the trends, what is trendy, what is the style that is trendy, and they will keep making anime that look that way. Back then, back in the 60s, in the 70s, and still in the 80s, they were trying different stuff, and that's what I kind of miss about Japanese anime in a way.
With the completion of Cleopatra, Tezuka left Mushi Productions. Actually, by then, he had already stepped down as president and founded a brand new studio. Called Tezuka Productions, it was a smaller studio that, until his passing in 1989, would exclusively produce anime created by the man himself. Though Tezuka may have been a burden on schedules and budgets, he allegedly did help with funding and some of the debt. So for Mushi, now under new leadership, it was either sink or swim. To get back into black, their outsourcing work led them to animate for the film The Great Adventures of Love, a Mary Poppins-esque musical comedy. But with their next production, Mushi were hoping for a hit. Jo Yobuki is a teenage vagrant.
I was talking about this one. This anime is iconic. It is iconic. One of the most influential anime ever. For a lot of animators, it's their favorite anime. I talked about it before, but I used to know a French animator that actually worked on a Pokemon series. He was an animator for Pokemon Sun and Moon. Like, he actually worked in Japan for Oriental Light and Magic, or Studio OLM, which is the studio that is producing the Pokemon anime. And his favorite anime, and the anime that made him want to start animation, was Tomorrow's Joe or Ashita no Jo. This anime is really iconic, and obviously I would recommend people to watch it. It's a 70s anime, so obviously it's old, but it's really well produced for its time. It is a great anime, one of the most influential anime ever in the medium. If we had to make a list of what is the most influential anime, I think you would put this one on the top 5 or even top 3. It's really hard to gauge because, again, there were so many animes in the history of the medium, especially back then, that there are so many anime that had a lot of impact. But I really believe this one, you should put it in, at very minimum, in the top 5 easily.
Who begins learning boxing while in prison. Through pure determination and spirit, Joe climbs the ranks to fight for the world title.
Boxing anime. And obviously,
Penned by
I said it in the past, I really like Ippo, Hajime no Ippo. I'm a big Hajime no Ippo enthusiast. So obviously, I really love Joe too, you know. Like, I love both anime. I really love Ippo because it's actually the first one of the two that I watched. But when I watched Joe, I really enjoyed it too.
Fujiwara, creator of incredibly important manga such as Star of the Giants
Star
and
of
the
Giants.
soon-to-be-discussed Tiger Mask, Tomorrow's Joe is routinely voted as one of the most influential series ever created.
He's saying it. He's saying it. I think this one, you have to put it in a top 5 minimum of most influential anime ever. I saw it all the time, but animators, like Japanese animators, or even other animators, like I give you the example of the guy I used to know who worked for OLM. It's their favorite anime, pretty much.
Published in Shukan Shonen magazine, Tomorrow's Joe was the ultimate story of the little guy. When rival character Totoro Kishi died in the manga, fans were so devastated that a funeral service with a reported 700 attendees was held in his honor.
That is
Adapted
crazy.
By Mushi, the show achieved decent ratings, peaking at around 22%. And for many, the work was an inspiration. It was so popular that a famous student slogan was, "In the right hand, Asahi Journal. In the left, Shonen Magazine."
That was the magazine that was being
accusations of
published.
encouraging violence appeared justified when a terrorist group hijacked an airplane in flight, and on a declaration, one hijacker wrote, "We are tomorrow's Joes."
That's
the Red
cool.
Army faction splintered off from the New Left in 1969. Their goal was igniting worldwide simultaneous revolution through violence. Inspired by South American revolutionaries, 9 members of the RAF conspired to hijack an airplane and then take it to be trained by their Cuban comrades. The Boeing
Damn.
727 couldn't actually travel that far, so they instead demanded to be taken to North Korea. After failing to trick the terrorists by landing in South Korea, the hostages were released and the terrorists flew north. Upon their arrival, they were imprisoned, tortured, and indoctrinated into working for the North Korean regime.
Damn.
Thus, Ashita no Joe became a target for social groups. By nature, a story about boxing is brutal, but the series wasn't promoting terrorist ideology. And as we've explored, from page to screen, the media in general had become increasingly violent. Just like Joe, sports anime proved again and again to be surefire hits, and the subgenre of martial arts anime was the foundation for the majority of modern shonen anime.
Sports anime were really popular at the time. I think it was Star of the Giants that actually started the trend, because Star of the Giants is an anime about baseball, and baseball always was really popular in Japan. And when Star of the Giants released and got a hit, that started a whole generation of sports anime. You could look in the 70s, like during the 70s, they made a lot of sports anime. Sports anime were really popular at the time, and as the guy said quite well, it was the basis of shonen anime too, you know. Shonen anime actually took a lot of stuff from sports anime, pretty much.
Intimidating names, though common, may be slightly misunderstood. Goro the Terrible wasn't a terrible person, and the series Kicking Demon...
Damn. Nice kick.
was actually inspired by a real-life kickboxer. Based on the life of a karate master, 1973's Karate Master was written by Tomorrow Joe's author, Iki Kajawara, and is the segue for introducing the acclaimed pro wrestling series Tiger Mask. The anime aired in 1969, and
Tiger Mask
helped spark a resurgence in actual wrestling viewership, so much so that there are generations of real wrestlers that don the iconic cowl.
Exactly. Tiger Mask is really one of the really influential anime in Japan too. It is less known in the West because I would say that even with factoring the WWE, wrestling isn't as big as it used to be at that time, even though it was still the Hulk Hogan time, so I guess it was still popular, but people only cared about WWE, you know, they didn't give a shit about Japanese wrestling and stuff. But Tiger Mask was really popular in Japan, and as I said, it was a manga at first that got adapted into an anime, and then they were Japanese wrestlers that put the mask on and started getting called Tiger Mask. Tiger Mask is a real wrestler, you know. There's a Tiger Mask 1 and there's a Tiger Mask 2, and then they made different variations of Tiger Mask. And an iconic example in video games is King from Tekken. King is pretty much inspired by Tiger Mask. So really this character, Tiger Mask, is one of the most iconic character of the medium, easily.
In other genres, that same year, TMS began producing
the
an
Moomin.
animated version of The Moomins.
The
Created by
Moomins.
author Tove Jansson, he gave a simple request. The series should contain no fighting, machines, or money. Astonishingly, the higher-ups claimed that Japanese audiences were not interested in cute things. As a result, the once
That's a
innocent
weird
characters
thing
became-
to say. Japanese audiences were not interested in cute things. That's wrong. That's completely wrong. Even more when you consider how moe got big at a point.
became crass, violent, started businesses, and even threatened each other with guns. Halfway through the series, Mushi Pro were commissioned to take over the production. But even with the changes made and a reboot attempt, the original creator refused to allow it to have an international release. News media routinely condemned the entertainment industry for corrupting society. However, with their quest for ratings, they were easily the largest source of print and televised violence. In 1971, two radicals broke into a military base in Osaka.
It's funny how they always, like, it was always the case. People were complaining about the TV, and now they're complaining about the internet. People are always complaining about, damn, they shouldn't show that on TV. It's too violent. It's too sexual. It's too political. It's too this. It's too that. I don't want to see this or that. People, they don't want to change the channel. Like, rather than changing the channel or looking at other stuff on the internet, they will complain. It's always about complaining and complaining and complaining, you know. And that was always the case. I guess the human being is a complainer. They have to complain. But what they don't understand is that, okay, you look at, like, for example, you turn on your TV back in the 70s, and you see a movie, and you don't like that movie because you think the movie is too violent. It's pretty simple. Either you change the channel, or you turn off your TV. But starting to complain that they should remove that, or censor the movie, or cancel the movie, or remove it is... I never liked this mindset. That's not a good mindset to have.
Murdered a soldier while searching for uniforms and weapons. Later, an article was published with information unknown to the public. The resulting investigation shockingly revealed that the mission was directly funded by scoop-hungry journalists. As the media spotlight
It's always like that, Kuma, you know. There's always weird stories like that, you know, like they made articles complaining about something, and then you start to dig and you see that they did it with, like, some people asked them to do that, you know, like how controlling the media and stuff, you know, pretty much what you were seeing nowadays with video games, you know. Like, I was talking about the Assassin's Creed Shadows situation and how some people now are saying that, oh, see, Assassin's Creed Shadows is doing really well, Kuma. Ubisoft posted that they made 2 million players. We don't even know if those are sales or not, but we trust the word of our Lord and Savior Ubisoft because they're paying us to do the PR for them. You know what I mean? It's always about who's getting paid by someone else to make articles praising them or shitting on them, you know? It's always like that. It's always like that. Already back in the 70s and before, it's just how it is.
Variety, extremist groups began splintering further. Between 1969 and 1972, there were over 100 incidents involving actual bombs. By far, the most infamous Japanese terrorist group was the Japanese Red Army and its leader, Fusako Shigenobu, aka
The Red Army.
the Red Queen. In 1971, Fusako traveled to Lebanon and allied the JRA with the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. Her role as commander is debated as convenient fiction, but she was unquestionably the face of the organization. Pink film directors Koji Wakumatsu and Masao Adachi were invited to the Middle East to document the JRA cause.
By the way, I'm not really an expert of the pink film scenes, I think it's really interesting. Like, maybe I could dive into it at some point, because obviously those are the type of movies that I haven't watched a lot, but as you can see, back in the 60s and 70s, it was really big.
Titled The Red Army PFLP Declaration of War, the documentary was recruitment propaganda and a manifesto with Fusako proselytizing that only through armed revolution can world imperialism be defeated. Another splinter group, after horrifically purging their own members, took a lodge manager hostage while fleeing from the police. After 10 days of round-the-clock news coverage, police stormed the mountain inn and rescued the captive caretaker. In the skirmish, 2 police had died, but the radicals' TV ratings were higher than the Sapporo Winter Olympics opening ceremony.
That's
Now,
crazy.
along with violence,
But usually when stuff like that happens, people watch, like when stuff like that happens and it's being broadcast on TV, live on TV, people will watch. This is why you will get like situations like this, like for example, this event had a better ratings than the opening ceremony of the Winter of Olympics. Even though the Winter Olympics were always less popular than the Summer Olympics, obviously, but still, that's pretty big.
Tourism began appearing again in anime. Tatsunoko produced a series called The Decision. The anime attempted to retell famous scenes from World War II.
Animentary.
Celebrated for the accuracy and detail of its art,
I
the
guess that's a
story is
mix
based on
of
true
anime
events,
and
yet
documentary.
ignores the darker side in favor of nostalgic symbolism. Norakuro, the star of Japanese wartime propaganda, also returned to the screen in 1970, once
Damn.
again climbing the ranks of the Japanese military. But everything came to a head in 1972, when 3 members of the JRA arrived in Israel. At the hands of Japanese terrorists, the Lod Airport massacre saw the deaths of 26 innocent people and the injury of 80 more.
Damn.
The next year, fighting between Israel and the Arab coalition would see the death of over 10,000 people. It was called the Yom Kippur War. In retaliation for America supporting Israel, the Organization of Arab Petroleum Exporting Countries put a full embargo on oil exports to the United States.
Also, all of
and
this
its
story
allies.
about the war between Israel and war countries and stuff, I always try to avoid to not get too deep into it, because obviously that's one of the most controversial stuff you can talk about nowadays. Like, if you want to get political, I guess that's the best theme you could use to do. Unprovoked
At the time,
reactions.
Japan was one of the biggest oil importers in the world. It literally fueled the economic miracle, and 83% of that oil came from the Middle East. The once neon-lined streets became shrouded in darkness. Theaters were forced to shut down, and people were panically hoarding toilet paper. Simultaneously, President
It's
Nixon
always the same,
decoupled the US dollar from the gold standard. This increased the value of the yen, making Japanese goods much more expensive, both abroad and at home. Combined with international demands for Japan to end protectionism, the Japanese economy was in freefall. Companies
And that's
large
what
and
I was
small
saying, the war happened. After the war in the 50s, the Japanese economy was really bad. Then in the 60s, it started to go up. It had a dip here in 1960, it should be 1966, and then it started to get really big again. But all things considered, it was staying high for most of the 60s, and then we get into the 70s and it's going down. It's going really down, even worse than in the 50s. And that's a history of Japan, doing well, then doing bad, then doing well, then doing bad again. It's a cycle.
Declared bankruptcy. For those still in Mushi Productions, already in a precarious position, it made sense to hit the eject button. The final
Bankruptcy.
productions from Mushi, such as Yashi Lion and Anderson Stories, were quite well made, but financially it wasn't enough. Year on year, the number of Mushi shows and stuff was shrinking. Rounding out the adult-oriented film trilogy, they rushed to release Belladonna of Sadness.
This one too, Belladonna. This one I would recommend it. Like there's Cleopatra, Belladonna, and the first one that I forgot the name. But those three movies, like if you ever want to watch erotic anime movies, and by erotic, I'm really talking about this type of artsy movie, you know. I'm not talking about a hentai, you know. Don't expect a hentai experience from those movies, but I would recommend them. Belladonna is a great one too. Actually, I wonder if I like Belladonna more than Cleopatra, you know. Because Belladonna is pretty good too.
Spiritual journey through France. Though extremely well rated decades later online, the film, released just days after the bankruptcy announcement, bombed completely in theaters. In the final gasps during the closure of
It's
Mushi
crazy
Production,
how Mushi Pro struggled so much, you know. Like Mushi Production is really an example of a studio that was too early. It was too early for them, you know.
they curiously produced the anime Little Wanza, a show whose main character was the mascot for Sanwa Bank. Wanza was originally designed by Tezuko, so
Cute
the
doggo.
reason for the show may raise some speculation. Finally, Mushi worked partly on the German co-production Vicky the Viking, and that was the end. In a little over a decade, the studio credited for kicking off the anime TV boom went bust. Despite
That's
claims
sad.
that his studio was made to produce experimental animation, they still produced TV anime.
I'm always sad when an anime studio goes out of business, especially that in the history of Japanese anime, it's always the studio that tried to do something different that eventually went out of business. My favorite studio, like I said, that I really like KyoAni, but another of my favorite studios, Studio Madhouse, they almost went out of business. Almost. In 2010, they were close to bankruptcy, but fortunately, they got bought by NTV or Nippon TV, like a TV network. And they were close to bankruptcy because they made a ton of anime in the 2000s that were great. Usually, I would describe the Madhouse Golden Age between 98 and 2011. 98 being Cardcaptor Sakura, one of my favorite anime ever, that like, and even as a TV anime, Sakura is crazy good looking. It's probably the most good looking TV anime that is most than 50 episodes. That's how good it is, you know. I think that the production is insane. And 2011 would be Hunter x Hunter, the 2011 adaptation, Madhouse adaptation of Hunter x Hunter. And all of this period between 98 and 2011, there is a ton of anime that Madhouse produced and released and that were really great. Like, obviously the most known one is Death Note, which was a big phenomenon when it released here in the West too. But there are anime like Monster, like Kaiji, like Claymore, like Akagi, like One Out, like Beck, like Casharn Scenes. All of those anime were really good, really good, and they were different than what you could see usually during that time in Japanese anime. What was trendy at the time was the moe type of anime. So pretty much what Kyoto Animation was doing. Like all the anime Kyoto Animation was doing, like Clannad, Canon, Air, Haruhi, K-On, all of those anime were really popular because it was the trend also, you know, and they were really good at making those type of anime good looking. Madhouse was really another approach in that way. And all of those anime, when you look at the reviews and stuff, especially in Western countries, they're all beloved, Like, for example, Kaiji. Kaiji is really popular nowadays, but Kaiji made $0 for Studio Madhouse. Like an anime like Kaiji that is so beloved nowadays to the point that they made a TV series, Squid Game. You probably heard or watched Squid Game. Squid Game takes a lot of inspiration from Kaiji, to the point at times you can even start to wonder if it's not a kind of like a rip-off Kuma. But yes, Kaiji is really beloved nowadays. But back then, when it was broadcasting, Kaiji didn't make a lot of money. It made close to zero, actually. It was the same for the Monster adaptation. So Madhouse was really close to bankruptcy at some point. But fortunately, they got bought out by NTV, as I said.
The first work they produced was The Marvelous Melmo in 1971. The amount of adult content aimed at children was heavily criticized, and it couldn't compete in the ratings against Saze-san. In his 1986 interview, Tezuka lamented that there were no more artists or Japanese representatives in animation, and believed that he alone was taking on the task by distributing only good animation abroad. The statement was far from reality, however. Fleeing the collapse of Mushi Pro, various staff established the industry's most influential studios. Sunrise Studio began debuting the comedy Chief Joker in
Sunrise, which is another of my favorite anime studio. I would put Sunrise in my top 5. Sunrise is notoriously known for a lot of mecha anime, the most famous one being Gundam, obviously.
1972, and followed it up with Zero Tester the next year. Madhouse Studio, after co-producing Aim for the
Madhouse
Ace, would become one of the most defining animation
This
houses.
one, like if you ever want to get into 70s anime, you should watch, obviously you should watch Joe, Ashita no Joe, and you should watch Aim for the Ace. Eisu no Nerai. Those anime are great.
In Japan. Even while Mushi's doors were still open, the 70s introduced some of the most influential series of the industry. Go Nagai's Devilman saw its simultaneous manga and anime debut in 1972.
Devilman is okayish, the Devilman anime. I never was a big fan of Devilman, by the way. I think I talked about it in the past, but even the manga, I'm not really a fan of the manga. Amongst Go Nagai works, I prefer Mazinger Z and Cutie Honey. I love Cutie Honey and Getter Robo too. Like, I prefer those work than Devilman, but still, Devilman is a staple. Like, you should read it, and you should watch it. The original anime is it's different than the manga, so I guess it's not the most interesting. Like, the anime is alrightish, all things considered.
Didn't achieve exceptional ratings. Devilman, along with Nagai's next series, Mazinger Z, had such an effect
Mazinger Z.
That
I think I told the story of that too. Like, the first time I watched Mazinger Z, like, he says Z, usually I say Z, but the first time I watched it, I was still in middle school, I was watching it during my free time in middle school, when sometimes the teacher was sick, but it was still too early in the day to go home. We were staying in the study room, and sometimes, like, some of the teachers that were looking at us, they didn't mind for us to do anything we wanted, if we did, or if our work and our homework was done. And I used to be a pretty good student myself, Kuma. Like I said it in the past, I was a model student, so I always had a lot of free time, and I always had my laptop with me. And I was watching old anime at the time. That's when I really started to watch boomer anime, as I like to call them. And one of them was Mazinger. And I remember some of my classmates, they didn't understand what I was watching. They thought I was crazy, because they were like, okay, like, why are you watching this old robot stuff, Eureka? And I was saying, but that's cool. Mazinger is cool. You should try it. Some of the episodes are really good, but they couldn't believe their eyes because at that time they were mostly into shonen or anime like Fairy Tail, pretty much.
The next generation of anime, and indeed entertainment, was entirely transformed.
I really like
Japan quickly
Mazinger.
recovered from the 1973 economic shocks, renewing diplomatic relations with the Middle East and turning towards alternative power sources such as hydroelectric and nuclear power stations. Production once again resumed. A surge in
By the way, I'm just taking here like this.
international demand for fuel-efficient vehicles and reliable consumer electronics helped bring the economy back from the brink. Though it would never again reach the heights of the rapid growth period, the Japanese economic miracle would continue on for another 18 years.
That's
Thus,
a lot.
The term high-speed growth period is a concept that I believe can be applied to so much more than Japan's miracle economy. Anime saw more works created during this 10-year period than every preceding decade combined. Transportation technology.
That's why we consider it as the boom, the big boom of Japanese anime, because again, they were already anime back in the 50s, in the 40s, and I think even the 30s, but not as much, And it's really with Astro Boy when Osamu Tezuka started his own studio, Mushi Production, and started to adapt his own work that it kicked off. As I said, Astro Boy, even if at the end the ratings of Astro Boy weren't that good, it peaked at 40% ratings, which is really big for an anime episode. 40% ratings, it's really big.
Society evolved.
So I mean, it was really at a point, it was really popular, and that's really what started this big boom of Japanese anime.
At unparalleled speed. But as time marches ever forward, we forget this rapidity applies to both positive and negative. Japan's movie industry almost instantaneously imploded. New wave industrialization epidemically damaged local populations, and society, ignited by the fires of change, became a series of powder kegs, indiscriminate in their volatility. A nation which celebrated its pacifism simultaneously profited immensely from war. Its brief penance seems easily justified or even lacking when balancing the profit and bloodshed. And a man worshipped as a god abandoned his creation after unintentionally ensuring its demise. Though right to be immortalized.
That's why, that's the Osamu Tezuka curse again, because as I've said, Osamu Tezuka is a great artist, but he was never made to be a businessman, He was never made to be a businessman. It's not like Disney. Disney was known to be a great businessman, which is why the impact of Walt Disney was really insane. It was really insane on the medium because Walt Disney was, like, besides being a great animator, was a great businessman. He was. And that's what was lacking someone like Osamu Tezuka. Because Osamu Tezuka, as I said, was an artist first and foremost. So when he started making anime, let's say, he didn't really know how to deal with it, with all the business aspects.
Century of echoed stories have quite literally shrouded history in pointless myth and legend. But our story is far from over. Years of adaptation, experimentation,
That's how
and
it
innovation
is.
had cultivated powerhouses of art.
By the way, 2 seconds. Okay, I'll be right back because my father just called me. I think he just arrived. He wants me to go down in the garage right now. So I'll be right back. 2 to 5 minutes, I won't take long. And I think we're pretty much almost finished the video. But I'll be back. I'll be back, Kuma. Wow. I'm back, Kuma. I'm back. It was just like my father brought a ton of computer to sell again, because I was talking about it before, but it's one of our side activities. But like my father has a ton of old computer at his place, at his job, that aren't used. And sometimes they bringing them down in a big place where there is a ton of PCs and stuff that aren't used, and that, like, if you don't take them, it just gets thrown away. So usually what my father does, like, he picks them and then brings them back, because usually we sell them, you know. It's easy to sell them, and it's pretty easy, Kuma. That's nice. That's nice. So just let me finish the video. We're close. I think we're pretty much finished.
The future was looking bright. But, as we have seen,
Gundam.
a lot of changes can happen in 10 years. So, thank you for watching another one of my videos. I've spent a year and a half researching, writing, and editing.
That's a lot.
Right now, as of this recording, I've just
1
finished
year and a half.
the voiceover for the second half of part 3. It took 7 hours to record this, and I'm losing my voice. I hope you enjoyed part 3. I tried hard to make the best video I possibly could.
I liked it.
If you could share it, or like it, or just, I don't know, watch it twice, I would
watch it
appreciate
twice. I think I could.
Also, I have
That's
a
one of the
Patreon,
video.
check that out.
Obviously, I would do
occasionally
it.
production updates, but to anyone who's donated ever, thank you so much.
That's a pretty cool
amazing.
video. Like, that's type of video I could rewatch it in the future. I mean, obviously off stream, because I won't show it twice on stream. Even though it could still be interesting in the future if at some point I started to encourage people to watch older anime and stuff. But that was a pretty good video, by the way. That was a really good one. By the way, again, I apologize for the unexpected break I had to take right now, but again, I was helping my father getting those computer from his car, because again, like, it's pretty nice because we sell them quite easily, and it's a way to make a bit of money, you know. We're hustling, as I like to say, Kuma. So I think I'm gonna stop the stream right now. I'm gonna thank, as always, all of you guys. You're pretty nice. So Prince Anime, Ladni Void, Volios, Oni Densetsu, and any other people who went to watch my stream, who was lurking. Like, there was also that little kid. I assume it was a kid who was being a bit weird. I mean, I banned him, but still, that was a bit of entertainment, I guess, but I had fun. This week, I don't think I'm gonna stream another day this week, but I should be obviously here next week, because at minimum, you're going to get Eureka Wainwright, the great scientist, once a week, at minimum. That's my goal, that I still doing quite well, but that was pretty fun. So I'm telling you guys, have a nice evening as always, and I'm going to see you next week. Unless I decide to stream this weekend, I don't know yet, but I could be. But that was really nice, a really nice video. I mean, we almost finished it, we finished it. Like, when I take my break, it was finished, so that was nice. And I hope to see you next time. I'll be here next week, or maybe this weekend, but probably next week. So I hope to see you there. Bye bye, Eureka, bye bye.